All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Town Hall. Today is Wednesday, March 18th. It's a little after 7 p.m. We're here for the preliminary budget adoption, fiscal year 26-27. First order of business, as always, the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next on the agenda is the land acknowledgement statement. The town of South Kingstown pays homage to the indigenous people and land on which the town is now located. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing efforts to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Narragansett tribe whose land and water we benefit from today. Next, we have the roll call.
Council President McEntee?
Here.
Council Vice President Marin?
Here.
Council Member Bergner? Council Member Alley?
Here.
Council Member Wedgemont?
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Town Manager Jim Manny to give us a briefing on what's in store for tonight. Jim, go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. Before I go over the agenda, just want to say congratulations to Town Clerk Nicole Romaine, who on Friday, that's her last day here in employment with the town. She's moving back to California with her husband and her daughter, and she's going back to the old town that she lived in, that's La Quinta. And she's been an employee here for 4 years. She came in at an extremely tough transitional point 2 years ago. It was a tremendous amount of work, but also it was a big learning curve, as anyone would expect with a town clerk's position. But I'm very excited for her. I'm very happy for her. I wish nothing but the best for her, and she's done nothing but great things for the town, so I really appreciate it, Nicole. Thank you very much. And they're having a go-away cake for Friday at 2 p.m., so if anyone's around, you're welcome to come and stop by. Yes?
Just want to say you're relocating to sunny California after one of the snowiest winters, so I commend you for your intelligence to get out of Dodge quickly. And I'll be visiting a couple times a year. Just kidding, Nicole. Best wishes to you. Thank you. We forget, everyone might forget, but I remember the incredible amount of work you did in the election season. I think if you didn't realize how much I truly realized early voting on all of that and organizing at the same time, typing minutes and running meetings, you were unbelievable and unflappable. Thank you so much.
I'll also say, Nicole, good luck, congratulations. You've done a great job at these meetings, informing us, keep us on track with anything that may be in your purview that sort of goes off track. But we only see a glimpse of what you do on a day-to-day. Coming to these meetings is just a small fraction of everything that you do. So you've done a great job here. We wish you well. Sad to see you leave. We've developed a good rhythm with these meetings, but good luck, and jealous you get to be in sunny California, so enjoy.
Nicole, thank you for your service to our town. You have really dedicated yourself these past 4 years, and as a new council member, you really helped me with the onboarding process and getting to know everything. So I just wanted to say thank you, and good luck.
Thank you, Nicole. I don't want to be the only one that doesn't say something, but I echo the sentiments of my colleagues and wish you well.
My only suggestion is I'd be happy to sign an affidavit for combat pay, but I don't think they'll give it to you.
So as Nicole leaves, we selected a new, last Friday, selected a new town clerk. It's Emily Hull, and who's to my left. And Emily's been here about that same period of time, about 4 years. She has she's the deputy clerk right now in her position, and she'll go before the council on Monday when it's official at the meeting, where I would appoint her and you would have to confirm that appointment. We've only had not many clerks in the 302-year history of this town, and I'm very confident she will excel and do very well at it. And if she looks like a deer in the headlights, she's really not. She'll get through just fine. Thank you for signing on board, Emily. So tonight's agenda is really two items. So we have the resolution adopting the 26-27 Town Council preliminary budget, which I'm sure you're going to want to go through and discuss. And then we cannot forget, we also have the HSOA, which is in that budget that we must go over, and the Town Council needs to make some decisions on that as well. So let me start with the preliminary budget. Brian Sylvia, as always, has worked tirelessly to get this to this point, constantly making adjustments as late as 4:30 today when he was in my office just going over much of the material that was in here. So even though it looks like a lengthy document, and it is, a lot of stuff, we can just give you the highlights of it, have you look at the page, analyze it if you have any questions, and continue through it, because I know probably one of the most important things is for you as the Town Council to discuss what's in this document right here. So we'll start it right now. Let's go to page 3, Brian, please. So page 3 is the calendar. I'm not going to go through the whole calendar. I'll go through the highlights. So if you look down on March of 26, Wednesday the 18th, that's us tonight, the Town Council adoption of the preliminary budget deadline, which is March 22nd, 2026. That's the deadline to submit a budget for the preliminary budget. The next two dates are worth mentioning. In April of 26, so Monday, April 6th at 7 p.m., we'll have public hearing number 1 on the fiscal year 26-27 municipal and school department operating budget. On Tuesday, April 7th, we'll have public hearing number 2 on the 26-27 fiscal year municipal and school department operating budgets. There's many dates that follow, but we'll go over those more as at each one of the meetings that we go to. Let's go to page 4. Let's just look at the highlights. This is like an executive summary of what we're going to discuss tonight. It's the proposed operating budget highlights. So the summary is as follows. The school operating budget that is reflected in my budget in front of you is $63,313,034. That does not include the $2.5 million increase that the school committee and school department has requested that we discussed at last night's meeting. That this is my budget. It does not reflect that $2.5 million that they requested last night. Their budget has changed about $50,000 from prior year, which was 0.08%. The town operating budget is $35,754,674. The change over the 25-26 budget is $1,731,038. That's a 5.09% increase in the town operating budget from last year. The debt service budget, approximately $4.4 million. The change over last year is $939,000. That is an increase of 27%. That is the debt service that the town owes on the band's bond anticipated notes in direct correlation to the building of the $150 million new high school, that the bond, $150 million bond to build a new high school. If you look in the middle of the page, the proposed tax transfer to the schools is $55.9 million, 0% change over from last year. That is because I, in my budget, level funded the school department. The proposed tax levy, the proposed budget will be $80.9 million, approximately. That is a changeover of $1.7 million from last year, which reflects a 2.16% increase in the proposed tax levy. The proposed tax rate is $9.09. That, I took a note on this other page, that right there is a 15-cent increase from last year, or increase of 1.68%. There's one statistic worth noting. I asked Brian to break it out even further. What is the proposed tax rate increase for the town operation specifically, not counting the $900 $139,000 for the bond anticipated note debt. And it came out to about 9 cents. So 9 cents of that 15 cents is directly related to town operations, and approximately 6 cents is directly related to the debt service we're going to be carrying this year. The estimated net assessed value, bottom line, is $8,876,821,594. That's an increase of approximately $44 million, or 0.5% over last year. So what is the estimated net assessed value? What does that mean? This is our tax base. This is what all our taxes are based on, is that number. It comes up with their worth, and the numbers assigned to that to bring in taxes, which goes for the tax levy. Go to page 5. The personnel cost and the summary of proposed changes. If you notice, these 5 bullet items all relate to the different groups that, or unions, or non-unions, that town employees are affiliated with. We have approximately 240 full-time employees in this town. About 58 of those are non-union. So let's go back up to the top. The IBPO, International Brotherhood of Police Officers, personnel, have a cost of living increase built into their collective bargaining agreement of 3%. The IAFF, which is the International Association of Firefighters, those personnel have a cost of living increase of 2% built into that budget. One thing I will notice on the IAFF, there are certain other provisions. They were brought up substantially last year because of they were working Fair Labor Standard Act issues and so forth and so on. So their cost of living increases appears to be lower, but they were made whole with last year when we did the collective bargaining agreement was signed. Council 94 personnel, 2%. SKMEA, NEA personnel, 3%. In non-union personnel, I budgeted 2.5%. Historically, the non-union personnel, and there are 58 of those, but only 50 are paid through the general fund. The rest are like water, wastewater, and so forth, enterprise funds. So there's about 50 non-union employees. Historically, we've mirrored what the SKMEA would get, but chose not to do that this year because we do have some cost increases for things that we all know about that we learned last night. So that is what was budgeted. If you look at the bottom right of that graph, that page, those are the general fund impact of non-union wage increases. Because the conversation came up last night about maybe scaling that back. I had Brian add that this afternoon. The 2.5% increase was budgeted in this budget of $122,580 as an increase. And then you could see the numbers as they go down in 0.5% increments. Let's go to page 6. The estimated net assessed values less exemptions. So this is further a breakdown of our tax roll. And you can see that, let's jump right to the second column. In fiscal year 26-27, it gives that same number we gave on the previous page, about $8 billion on our tax roll. The net change was an increase of $37,750,033 from last year. That means that our tax base grew by that amount, further bringing in revenue. Second line is real property commercial. That grew by approximately $7 million. And the tangible property actually went down by $726,000. So just look at the bottom line. That's a snapshot right there. Our tax base is $8.8 billion. Page 7. I'll turn it over to Brian now, and he'll discuss from this point moving forward.
Thank you, Jim. As Jim mentioned, we did add a few pages late, and I think a couple of the pages that got added were a little bit out of order. So I'm going to jump ahead. I will specify that. Page 9, we talked about this at the first work session of the town. how we arrived at the tax transfer for school operations. So I wanted to provide a breakdown for that because there were some questions on that the other night. So the top line of that, again, I'm on page 9. I did jump ahead for this. This was meant to be before the last page. So the proposed tax transfer for education is the $55,994, as the town manager mentioned. The next section is related to the current existing debt on the books for the school department. So existing debt in principal and interest payments for next year will be $471,000. We're anticipating school housing aid of $155,000. So the impact or the tax transfer needed for that is a net of $316,000. On the bond anticipation notes for next year, we're anticipating interest payment of $3,051,000. We're proposing the use of $850,000 of fund balance from the debt service fund. So again, the net transfer needed for the bands next year would be $2.2 million. And then when you add those three numbers together, the $55.9 million, the $316,000, and the $2.2 million, that's how you arrive at the $58.5 million tax transfer for school operations. And then again, as the footnote at the bottom, it is worth noting the tax transfer would be $59.3 million without that use of fund balance from the town for the debt service lowering of $850,000. So I just wanted to provide a breakdown on that. There was a little discussion on that at the last meeting. I'm going to now go back to page, I believe I was on 7, unless there were questions. Okay, on page 7. The first two columns, those are that's the assessed values. That's the assessed values as of 24 and 25 that the town manager just went over. Unless anybody has any issues, I'm just going to jump ahead past those columns. The third column, moving to the right, is the adopted rates for the current year. You see the 8.94 for residential real estate and the 11.05 for tangible. What's being proposed for next year is a rate of 9.09 for real property and 11.05, which is locked for tangible. The next column is the adopted levy for the current fiscal year, which equates to $79.18 million. When factoring in the assessed values for next year and the proposed rates of 9.09 and 11.05 for tangible, the proposed levy for next year, which is the sixth column over, would be the $80,886,982, which represents a levy increase of $1.7 million or 2.16 levy increase. Going to the middle section of the page, moving that same number down, the levy, that $80.8 million. Now we're assuming additions throughout the year. So additions, whether it be tax bills go out of $100,000, and we are reflecting abatements of just under $150,000. That number is reduced from the prior year. Our abatements from last year, I believe, were set at $250,000 because it was a reval year, and we always anticipate more abatements in the reval years with the challenges. So that the abatements number has been lowered, and that is realizing now when you factor in those three columns, the proposed levy, the additions, and the abatements, that will lead you to the net to be collected, which is the $80,838,729 at a collection rate of 99% is an amount of $80,029,352. As noted, that rate of 9.09 that is being proposed, that is a rate increase of 1.68%. The change of 1 cent on the tax levy, that would realize a plus or minus of $87,765. And if the town council so chose to go up to the 4% cap, they would be eligible to realize additional revenue totaling $1.4 million. I should note the 1.4 million that's listed there, that is pre the 99% collection rate. So that would be actually, going off memory, I believe that was actually 1,390,000 when you factor in collection rate. Next on page 8, this is the general fund operating revenue summary. So this, we talk about the operating revenues often when discussing the fund balance and how they represent as a percentage of operating revenues. So looking at the second column, that is what we're proposing for next year, you see the general fund budget that's being proposed, that's the $35.7 million. And then it's the various tax transfers out of the general fund revenue. So you have the proposed amount for the schools at $55.9 million, the proposed amount for the senior center at $513,000, the proposed amount for the rec center at $492,000, proposed amount for debt service at almost $3.3 million, totaling $96,449,114. That represents a total change, or total increase of $2.7 million. And then as the town manager noted previously, if you look all the way to the right, you see the allocation of the rate and the change. So it's approximately 9 cents associated with the general fund and approximately 5 cents, 5.5 cents roughly for debt service, and a little bit for the recreation center as well. We went over page 9. On page 10, so the first step of page 10 is the page we went over previously on page 9, how we arrived at that 58.512 for the school operations. So that, as a percentage of total tax revenue need of the 81,253, represents 72.1%. And then obviously the balance going to the town at 27.99%. So of our tax need of 81.2, the schools would be representing 58.5 and the town 22.7. Backing out of that first to arrive at what we would need from current year tax. So that is total tax revenue. I should say that 81.5 million is total tax revenue. So that's our current year taxes or tax levy, prior year taxes, interest on taxes, and pilots or payment in lieu of taxes. So to arrive at what we need from current year taxes, that next line, the other tax revenue, that's our total proposed for non-tax levy or all of the other property tax revenue. So combined for prior year interest and pilots is the 1.2 million, and then you see the breakdown based on the percents for town and school. Once we back that out, we know we need from the levy amount of $80,029,000 to balance the budget. And then again, out of the levy, you see the amounts required from both the town and the school, the 57.6 for the school and the 22.4 for the town. The next back out to keep arriving at drilling down to the number we need, our tangibles are now rate locked, so we can back into what that amount is to back that out of our $80,029,000. So based on the assessed values of the tangibles on the books at our rate of 11.05, we're anticipating revenue for tangibles at $1.1 million, with just under $800,000 to the schools and just over $300,000 to the town. So again, now when backing that out, we know we need from the tax levy, current year taxes, just under $80 million, or 79.8 on the current year taxes. Breaking that down further, that would be the 57.45 for the schools and 22.3 for the town. And then the last section, again, you see that same number, the levy number that we need, the 79.7, we're putting back in the tangible, so that's going to give us the total tax revenue, and then we're backing out overlay and abatements, backing out the $850,630. So that again arrives at the same number as on the prior page that we need to balance the budget for current year taxes of $80,029,352. On page 11, a lot of the tangible, the top section is the tangible. It's the same information. So unless anybody has any questions, I was going to skip over that. The middle section, this is where you start to break down the actual rate itself and you back into the rate. So this is where you see, based on the revenue need of real estate of the 79.7, that's where we realize, okay, we need a rate of 909 to realize that. And then based on the percentages, 72.1 for the school and 27.99 for the town, that would back into a rate of 2.54 for the town and 6.55 for the school, which represents of the increase, a 9 cents for the town and 6 for the school, which is again associated with the debt. And then going to the bottom section, again, you're just bringing it into total. Current year tax revenue, 79 point, I'm sorry, that top number is the prior year levy, 79.1. The proposed new levy of 80,886,000. So the difference between the two is the third line, that's that 1.7, which again then represents a levy increase of 2.16, and you see the breakdown of the levy, which is 4.27 town, 1.36 town, school, excuse me. Okay. Page 12, again, you see a historical aspect of the rate allocation between the town and the school and the actual tax rate itself. That's, again, this one thing this slide certainly shows is I should add this to it because it would be interesting, just the value of the town. You see with the rate going up like that, obviously the values have shot up. I'm going to add that, actually. That'll be on there for the next round in April. But the values have shot up, and the rates are then corresponding going down. And you see the breakdown where, again, in the early year, the 2017-18, there was it ranged from 24.74 to 75.26 town school, and a little bit of a swing. So now the town is going from 24.74 to 27.99, school going from 75.26 to 72.01.
Before you move on, Brian, when you redo those numbers for the final, can you also include in this the actual dollar values for each of these?
I'm sorry,
You know,
dollar values of,
where you've got the 24.74 for the town, what that actual number was,
Oh,
the
sure.
dollar number?
Yeah.
For each of them, town and school.
yep,
If you could also just maybe put like an asterisk where we did the revals.
yes,
Because that would be a good key to have, because that explains the
yes.
changes in the rates. Also, we all appreciate the page numbers greatly.
Yes. They do help. Next on page 13 is, again, the year and projections for the current year that we're in, FY26. So this is the revenue side of the equation, or the ledger. Expenditure side. Usually I'll throw revenue first. This is the expenditure side. And expenditures are projected to come in under budget by $440,000, finishing at approximately $33.6 million. That is under budget by 1.29% overall. And on the revenue side, revenue is projected to come in over budget by 3.25%, or $1.1 million. Driving forces for that has been revenue from investments, state aid, and prior year taxes, prior year tax collections, all hovering around $300,000 to $400,000 each. They really make up most of that. And then you see we're a little low on the department revenue in a few places. But overall for the year, we are currently projecting, and I should note this is through February. We are projecting a year-end surplus of $1,545,493. On page 15, this is a new slide from the other night. This is a projection of our impact that was talked about last night by the school department for the healthcare increases. So in the budget that was issued by the town manager on February 28th, we included a assumed increase for healthcare of 10.5% and 3% for dental. We have since been informed that the increase for health will be 12.06% and dental at 8.47%. So this is the impact by department for the general fund. I think I've spoken to the town manager on this. So obviously, our budget is now short by this amount. I think our goal will be to bring some potential amendments to the council to layer this in the April meetings. Because one thing I wanted to just check on re-verify before we go with this, because we did just get these numbers, is the retiree health. I just want to make sure I'm capturing the retiree health from all departments. I don't think it will change much, but I would like to verify that and provide some options in terms of funding this at the April meetings. But that is, again, the impact for the general fund, just over 125,000. And then the next slide, slide 16, is the impact for the other funds. So senior center, based on the changes in health and dental, is short just under $1,200. Recreation center is short just over 500. Neighborhood guild just under 750. Water division $760. Wastewater just under $3,300, and solid waste just over $300. Again, we'll be before the council with some proposed amendments on that in April. On page 17, this is a summary as we look out for the debt service of the town. A lot going on here. I'm going to start at the top. So the top section is the municipal debt existing on the books for the town. I did not include the guild debt. That's self-sustaining. That's funded by the guild. And we are in our last year of, I always confuse that. I want to say it's water. There's one enterprise debt there's one interest payment left that's not included in this. That's going to be paid in full in the upcoming year. So I was concerning myself just with general fund debt. In any event, so the first section is the existing debt, and we have our current year first. You see town and school combined at $1.6 million. That will be dropping next year, FY27, to $1,282,000. And by the last year of this 6-year plan, when the new debt, the high school debt would be coming online, you're going to see, you will see a significant decrease in our existing debt, going from $1.6 million to under $1 million, or $950,000 by fiscal year 31-32. The middle section is the actual high school debt. So we have the first 3 years of bond anticipation notes, and then the actual debt coming online. The first year is fiscal year 25-26. That is in yellow because that represents what's been budgeted and what's layered into the budget. In actuality, we did pretty well, and we did a little bit better than anticipated. So the actual interest for the bands this year will be $1,685,000. So it's about $65,000-70,000 less. But this is the amount that's been layered into the budget and is now included. So I left that there. The next year, so moving to the right on the bond anticipation notes, we're anticipating next year next year in fiscal year 26-27, the year we are talking about, interest of $3,051,500. That is based on an anticipated borrow of $120 million. So that's rolling the $55 million we've currently issued and taking out obviously more to get to the balance of $120 million. And then the final year would be the full $150 million at an estimated $3,356,000. I should say too, the interest on the 26-27 is anticipated at 2.5%, and 27-28 is anticipated at 2.25%. In terms of the actual issuance, we are still at this point, until we hear otherwise, we are anticipating issuing the full $150 million. So that is, we are anticipating a full issuance in fiscal year 27-28 of the $150 million over a 20-year term, payments to begin in fiscal year 28-29, and that is anticipating a rate of 3.8%, and we're anticipating debt service payments due principal and interest of $10.8 million. And that'll pretty much be our debt service for that, for the 20 years. You'll see slight fluctuations as you see for the first 4 years, but it's going to be about $10.8 million. And that's where you see the big jump. So on the last line in that middle section, the total debt service, that's where you really see the jump from 27-28 to 28-29. We go from $4.5 million to almost $9 million. That is those are our obligations that are on the books. That's where you're seeing the big jump. We're trying to layer that in, and we'll get into that in a minute, but that's really the year of pain, but we're trying to plan ahead for that. So now in the bottom section, you're seeing some of our funding sources to offset some debt. First, the school housing aid. That is, what's represented there is the school housing aid on the existing school debt that is on the books right now. That's been slowly decreasing, but then by year 28, 29, you get the influx for the state aid on the high school bond. The next is the real estate conveyance, which goes towards the open space debt that's on the books, which we have one interest payment left in the upcoming fiscal year, 26, 27. That's why you're seeing that fall off after the 26, 27 year as that debt is paid in full. The next line is the planned use of the debt service fund, which is just over $3 million. I can pull that number in a minute. I should have had that handy. But the debt service fund balance as of 6/30/2025 is just over $3 million. I believe it's $3,090,000. I will get that in a minute. And this is the planned use of that amount. It's actually, if you add up those three amounts, that would do it. That's going to bug me, and I'm going to have to do that. But, so we used $682,000 in the current year. We're proposing $850,000 in the upcoming year. And then again, that year where we're seeing the big jump, we're proposing to use $1.5 million to help offset that. So, and then finally, the next column is the planned use of unassigned fund balance. And this is where when it is talked about, okay, our fund balance is higher than it should be. This is, again, we're trying to minimize this growth that you're seeing from the debt, and that's the fund balance in future years is potentially coming into that, as we're trying to keep the increases under $1 million on an annual basis. And the unassigned fund balance is coming into play in years 29, 30, and 30, 31 to the tune of $500,000 and $600,000. Finally, our interest earned for the bands, which for the current year, that one I got to pull. I'm not going to throw an estimate because that is a big number. The interest earned on the bands for the current year, I should have had that. Okay, is that it? Is $1,129,238. We actually earned 23, almost 24,000 in June of last year. So combine them, we got about $1,150,000 in interest earned from the bands right now. And we're
Oh,
just,
Brian, I
Yes.
just want to clarify some of that. Right now means as of March 18?
through February.
Okay, so through month end February.
Yes.
And the proceeds are still invested?
They're
Or sitting in the account that's earning income?
Yes. Well, at this point, we had them in a CD, earning a little bit more than we could, but at this point, we're moving pretty good on the project, and the invoices are really coming in. So now they're just in a high-interest account.
Now, the amount of income on those accounts that's reflected in this budget here, is that through February month end, or is that anticipated through 6/30/26?
Right now, we have about $1,150,000 earned. Through the end of the year, we're anticipating about $1,250,000.
So you anticipate a $100,000 increase
the
as
balance
compared
of
to
the
what's
year.
reflected in the budget? here?
Yes.
Okay.
Before we move on from that line, do I understand that where you've got planned use of bands investment income for 25, 26, you've got 0. So while we've earned 1.15, you're planning on not using it and setting it aside for 28, 29, and 30?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, those 3 fiscal years come to 2.25 total?
Yes.
So where is the other money coming from? How do you get to 2.25 if what you've got right now is 1.1?
We're next year's bands. We're anticipating, we're planning for next year's bands to continue to earn interest.
Okay.
So even you can really see our first, help if I put these on, huh? The first few months that we had the bands, we were earning interest in the account of $185,000 a month. The most recent month, as it is going down, we a lot more activity at the site now. We earn just under $50,000. So it's as the amounts in the account go down, obviously we're earning less interest, but
Because you're writing more checks to pay
Yes.
for the building as we go.
yes,
Bills from the high school are coming in.
yes.
Now, Brian, I just want to clarify. So when you say you anticipate, I believe you said 1.25 million in income generated on the proceeds from the bands that just sit in the account, you don't anticipate any use of investment income for the current year, don't anticipate any use of the investment income subsequent year, 26, 27, but then you anticipate using 100,000 in the third year there? Now, is that going to come from the income that's generated in the current year? Or are we anticipating income to be generated in subsequent years and then tap into that income then?
That's just going to sit in, it's basically, that fund is going to have a fund balance, and it's going to be, this will roll. So the high school has a high school construction fund, and this will build into the fund balance of that fund and sit there until needed.
So that 100,000 of use in 27, 28,
Yes,
that's 100,000 of the 1.25.
correct.
And then the 1.03 in 28, 29, that's 1.03 of the 1.25.
That's correct.
And so on.
Yes.
But we clearly expect additional income to be generated because once you get to 29, 30, you're going to have income in excess of
Yes.
what we anticipate for the current year.
That's correct. That's where we're anticipating earning interest again in next year 2 of the bands.
That'll be next year.
Yes.
And then in year 3,
Year
No.
3, it's a much smaller issuance. We're going from 120 million to 150, and the bands probably won't be as long. They'll be issued in probably the same time frame, June, and we will likely be issuing the actual bonds themselves in the fall. So we won't be having that year 3 of the bands as long, and they won't be as much.
so in terms of accounting for the surplus here, does that account for this income? Because you're
Yes.
saying it sits in its own account, doesn't touch the general fund, it's going to just be its own separate account.
Yeah, so the high school, the construction has its own fund. I believe it's 635, and it's within that fund. It will be in
Okay.
the fund balance of that fund.
So of the 1.5 net surplus you anticipate, that's made up of a 1.25 investment income? It should be, no?
We're
How am I
anticipating,
not interpreting?
over the 2 years, we're anticipating earning just over $2 million from the years 1 and 2 bands. That would be sitting in the fund balance of the high school construction fund.
Which is accounted for as part of the total budget and is accounted for in the net surplus that's anticipated for year-end fiscal year '26.
When you say budget, are you speaking to the high school budget or the operating budget?
I was speaking to the operating budget,
Oh,
which you
yeah,
reflected
so,
on a
okay.
previous slide of anticipating a $1.5 million surplus,
Yep,
right? You also stated that for the year ended fiscal year '26, June 30, 2026, you anticipate investment income of $1.25 million.
that's correct. All that correct, except this is outside of the operating budget. This is not in the operating budget.
But it's
This
still
is
reflected in the surplus.
not the town's unassigned fund balance, that surplus, the surplus of
Oh,
that.
sorry, when I say surplus, I mean revenues in excess of expenditures.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the answer is yes.
Yes.
The income is accounted for in the
Yes.
surplus that you presented 2 slides ago.
No, that's separate. Wait, let
You
me
presented 2 slides ago.
Two
Revenues
slides
in
ago.
excess of expenses equal to 1.5
Yeah,
million.
so this is just this is general fund operations.
So it does or it does not account for
It
the
does not
investment
in- it
income?
is not
It does
included
not?
in that. That's
Okay, that's good news.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, I feel like we should just speak at a lower level of,
I agree, Deb. That's what that's what I was
I-
looking for.
I'm following all of this, but I don't know if other people are following this. I just want to say it slowly, so we check for understanding, right? So there are bond anticipation notes that we took out and have earned interest of $1.2 million for year 1 and year 2.
I would like to talk a little bit about how I personally found the bond council meeting to be very interesting and informative.
Right.
And so my understanding of that is that because this is layman's terms, because we're so awesome, we had a lot of people that wanted our business. And so Bank of America offered us the best deal, which was essentially cash back at closing, right? And so they gave us this money, which is the bands, which we get to invest and use that income towards our debt.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what bands are. But that's
Kind of.
kind of. I mean,
So I think I want to say, I think, Mike, you had a great question, because you added up, we're going to earn about $2 million in ban. He's identified using $2 million in ban interest, but we're currently only have earned $1 million. We're going to get another $1 million earned in this second ban, correct? And then we're going to use it. I think it's a smart way to smooth out the juggernaut of
Right.
millions that we're going to owe starting in 2028. I do think it's a great idea. It is separate, Rory, because I think,
Well, now I know it's separate.
Okay.
And I got that clarification.
okay,
So that's good news that it's
yeah,
separate.
yeah, yeah.
It doesn't
So
cut into the surplus that we looked at a few slides
Correct.
prior.
This interest income is going to be used to smooth out future painful tax increases.
Yes.
That's the simplest way to say that, the interest income on the bands, right?
Yes.
Agreed.
and this is why we really appreciate Brian's work.
So, yeah, we do. So there is a surplus, right, of 1.5 million. What slide is that on? 7, 6, 5? I have no idea. I wrote it down.
It's 14.
You guys.
You mean the operational
The operational
surplus.
budget. And so, but some of that anticipated surplus is earmarked for next year's budget.
That's
Is it 850? It's on there too.
It's amounts in excess of the 1.5.
Yes, we are proposing right now the use of fund balance to balance the FY 26-27 budget of $1,699,000. That's on a future, so that's coming up, but yes.
Okay. I guess you can keep going
Okay.
because we kind of stopped you, slowed
That's
you
okay.
down.
Well, before we move on, though,
Yeah.
part of the reason I was asking the questions is we're getting caught up and we're trying to figure out for tonight,
Yeah.
passing a preliminary for the operational budget for right now.
Right.
You're also providing a lot of information about what you expect
Yes.
down the road.
Yes.
And we've had pieces of this conversation going back to when the bond first passed. It might be helpful at some point, and I'm not talking about today or tomorrow, but sort of, there's clearly a master plan here that is separate from the operating budgets, but it impacts the budgets.
Yes.
It would be helpful to me, and I assume everybody else, for you to explain, because you and I have talked about the bands versus the final bond as well, to have a narrative that explains, this is what we did from May 7, 24, when the bond issue passed. We went and we talked to bond council, we got the bands, we anticipate a 20-year bond, and I've also asked you about, anticipated future interest rates, which in the last 2 weeks have concerned me more than they did a month ago.
Yes.
And the Fed stood pat today.
Yes.
Which actually was a good thing, because there was rumors about them going up. At any rate, it'd be helpful to all of us, and probably the public as well, to just sort of lay out what the long-term plan is that you're doing with all of this.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
So,
All right, we can keep going, Brian.
yeah. So just to finish up on this slide, the point to all of this would be that last line in blue, the total property tax need on an annual basis. And that's where we're trying to keep the need on the tax revenue for the new bond at $1 million or less each year. And that's why we're trying to do this smoothing and which is difficult when, you look at the total debt service going back to that line from 27, 28 to 28, 29, where you see that increase of, $7 million. So we've been trying to smooth this out, and that's obviously the goal of this, but, and that's where we are right now. We're in, going into year 2 of it, but that is the framework of the plan. But yeah, I
What-
can-
What's the explanation for the significant drop in 31, 32?
At that point, it's layered in. At that point, we've at that point had fully phased it in. You see all these various revenues we're using in the bottom, they're gone. All you're seeing at that point is the debt service of the 10.8 million and the state aid of 4 million, and it's layered into the tax levy at that point. Yep.
So that means what we get back from RIDE and housing aid will cover the payments that we owe?
So at that point, we'll have the 4 million on an annual basis from RIDE, and the balance at that point will be layered into the town's tax base, tax levy.
So between now and fiscal year 31, we will have, wishful thinking, very small increases in the
Related to
tax
debt.
rate,
Yes,
and 4 million from RIDE
yes,
to cover the payment.
that's correct.
Perfect. Just
Yes.
for the bond?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
What's that?
Yeah, awesome.
Page 18, so this goes over revenue. Oh, actually, I will draw your attention, I'm going to go right to the bottom because I was quoting this, and I was pretty close. The proposed use of fund balance, 1,699,923 for next year. But this is a summary of the proposed revenue for next year of the general fund. You'll see the total at $35,754,674. We've gone over these numbers, they haven't changed, so if anybody has questions, happy to go over them, but I was just kind of going to do the highlights at the bottom. Okay? The next slide is the actual fund balance of the town. Oh, okay, sure. So this is this is taken right from the most recent audit dated June 30th, 2025. So this is a breakdown of the town's fund balance. So we have 77,000 related to prepayments that are non-spendable. In terms of the committed section, we have 113,000 for prior period encumbrances for the town. These are purchase orders that various town departments had taken out and the goods had not been received and paid by year end. So those are outstanding purchase orders. For the school department, they have a similar function, and they have that amount outstanding of 581,000. The proposed use, so this is again as of June 30, 2025. In the adopted 2026 budget, we have a use of fund balance of 1,659,000, so that's within the committed section. And then the final two are the school department, that is the school capital of 1.1 million and the school operating fund balance of 2.9 million. So the total committed is just under 6.5 million, and then the unassigned fund balance at 18,061,000, for a total fund balance of $24.6 million.
As of what date?
June 30, 2025.
25.
Yep. And then this is just, again, as gets talked about often, as the fund balance as it relates to operating revenues. So the fund balance is just noted on the prior page of 18.6 million. From 25, that gets applied against the operating revenues of 25-26, which is 93.3 million. So the fund balance as a percentage of operating revenues is 19.36%. We are projecting a surplus for the current year of 1.5 million, and we are proposing the use of fund balance for the upcoming year of just under 1.7 million. Adding those into the $18 million surplus, that relates to an adjusted fund balance projected for 2026 of 17.9 million. We have proposed operating revenues in 27 of 96,049,000. So the 17.9 into the 96 is a projected fund balance as a percentage of operating revenues of 18.64%.
And the GFOA benchmark is 17%?
Yes. And the town is 10 to 17. On the next page, so this is, I have by department, again, unless somebody wants to jump in, I was just going to go by the different groupings. So general government is proposed at $3.7 million. That is a 5.69% increase. On the next slide for upcoming year, public safety is proposed at 17.1 million. That is a proposed increase of 5.65%. Page 24 is Public services, which is proposed next year at $3,734,000, a proposed increase of 3.73%. Recreation is proposed at $2,676,992, which is an increase proposed at 8.56%. Page 26, we have library administration at the top, which is proposed for an increase of, I don't have the percent on that. Oh, that percent didn't carry down. Percent increase is 2.91%, and it's proposed at $1,579,958. And on the bottom portion, other expenditures, which are insurances and healthcare, fund contingency, et cetera, that is proposed at $921,500, an increase proposed at 4.48. Page 27, HSOA proposed at $182,050, level funded, and capital outlay at $2,057,796 for a total general fund budget of $35,754,674. And then just the special revenue funds, which are made up of the school operations, PDOB, senior center, guild, rec center, and debt service. Combined, those are proposed at $70,584,121, an increase of 1.63%. And then finally, the enterprise funds on page 29 is proposed at $8,666,425, an increase of 6.91%.
All right, thank you, Brian. Any questions from council members? I can just, you do? All right, go ahead.
Can I ask a question about the interest earned on the school trust funds? What do you typically do with the interest income for all of those funds? Where does that go? I know probably the guild probably takes it for operation, but like the other ones?
I just want to make sure, so that this is the funds that are related to the trustees of South Kingston Schools, that funds that they manage. So those funds are first off, approximately 90% of the total balance, yes, is related to the neighborhood guild. And the town is allowed to take interest. I always get the two confused. I believe we can take up to 5%, and annually we take usually about 3.5%. We have gone north of 3.5. We can take up to 5, but we will take 3.5% annually for operations for the guild. And then some of the money does go towards the school department, as they noted. They was noted last night. They take some money for some programs. The creative activities division within Parks and Recreation, which is the preschool, that takes some money from the trust. And then we do some scholarships. That's
Okay.
pretty much.
All right, I'm just curious.
Yep.
I wanted to say I appreciate page 5, where you just represent what the admin salary increases, non-union personnel increases would be. It was my thought that we could look at, it's not a lot of money, but it's mirroring what the school did or not. I know it's not popular, it's not fun to say these things. It's not a reflection of anyone's job performance, but it's an area where we could do a small reduction if we wanted to mirror the school department non-union is getting 2. And not just, I don't necessarily have a feeling on it, I just put it out there as there's one little bit of money to reclaim if you wanted to. I also feel, I wanted to ask about the collection rate on slide 7. You have 99%, what do we typically get? Is that,
Yeah, so
we get north of 99?
just north. I do have that. Nope, that's prior year. I bring too much paper. I want to say in the audit, the last 2 years, we were just over. We had, the last 2 years were about 9901, and 1 year was 9901, and 1 year was 9904.
Okay,
We did have, 3 years ago, we were at 99.10, so that was like the high water mark.
high water.
But we're consistently over 99, but the last 2 years was, I probably have them confused. One was 99.04, one was 99.01, so we were right around that 99%.
But a 1% is like, I don't know, $700,000?
Oh, I'm 99.01%, I'm sorry.
Oh, 1,
01, I'm sorry.
not
99
.1.
Yeah, sorry. One of the last 2 years was 99.01, and the other year was 99.04. And then 3 years ago was 99.1.
Okay, all right. I didn't know if there was any, so we've talked about adjusting that in the past. I think that's, seems okay.
So one area that has been strong has been prior year taxes, and that is...
That was what you had said, right, Jim? That
Yeah.
we're collecting, the collections were
Yeah,
better?
so just because it's 99.01, it doesn't mean we don't try and get that extra, 9.99. So, and they've done a really good job of collecting that, and it was about $750,000 last year, Brian? That extra that's been brought in. It goes to collection if people don't pay, and then we have to go through the process of recouping that money.
So last year in '25, the town collected just $728,000. This year, the town has collected through February, we had collected, oh, that's the prior year. We were at like $670,000. The thing that brought caution, though, again, if you go back, there are fluctuations. If you go back to 2024, the town took in $382,000. So there are fluctuations, but
Okay.
the last 2 years have been strong.
I guess this is now is a process question about the increases in health and dental costs. You had said you're going to do amendments in April.
Yeah, we'll propose some.
What does that mean? Like, I know what an amendment is, but what is that? What
Well,
is
right now, let me go back to that. That was...
15?
Okay, thank you. So these are, the amounts you see here, so I'll just start at the top, town manager's office, for example. The budget for the town manager's office for health and dental is now short by $371.
I understand that.
Oh,
So
okay.
if we were to pass the preliminary budget tonight as presented, the amendments would come in April.
Yes.
Would that be, we would be changing the amounts, or we would adjust, where are you going to get the 125? I guess that's a better question.
That's the million-dollar question.
Is it, because according to Patty, 87,000 and change is a penny. So are we going to will in April it be 910?
No, I don't, I wouldn't anticipate, in actuality, if put on the spot now, what we were just talking about, prior year taxes. We have room, based on
Okay.
where we've been, that would probably be, if I had to pick a spot right now, that's
Okay.
where I would recommend going. But I want to look at the number first to make sure the 125 is good, and
Okay.
is that, again, look at the prior year taxes again, but I think we have a little room there.
All right.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah, you can. I was done.
Prior year taxes, Brian? Slide 18. Slide 18.
Yes.
So you said you anticipate, or I guess through February of the current year, 670 prior year taxes.
Yes.
Looks like you got that reflected in the actual
Yep,
projected. Okay, I'm sure that's like an estimate through year end.
yes,
But proposed, you only got 451,000.
that's correct. That's where I think we have room to grow there, yes.
And based on the trajectory, we think that, it's hard to estimate that, I guess?
Again, based on, in 2024, we took in 382,000, so there are fluctuations, so it is tough. But yeah, based on the last 2 years, I think we have some room to grow there.
So when you say you rely on prior year taxes to fund the increase in the health care and benefits of the 125, you anticipate that what's reflected in here as far as prior year taxes is conservative and that should be higher than what's reflected here, allowing us to tap into that additional revenue from there to
Yes.
fund the additional expenses?
Yes,
Okay. Having a neutral effect on the general fund unassigned balance, correct?
that's correct.
Thank you.
So I seem to remember some discussion about benefits when we were renegotiating contracts. And I'm just looking at the different departments, and I noticed that the police department is at like a $90,000 increase when most of the other departments are considerably less. And I seem to remember that we were, in our efforts to retain people, we had sort of shifted some of the health benefits around. And I'm wondering why this is so much larger than the other departments, and if we're mandated to pay 100% of these increases, because all of us are realizing increases in our healthcare plans this year.
Well, the police department is the largest department in town, so that's why you've seen that number so large. There's 58 people that are in that pool, whereas you go to like facilities or tax assessors, there's 4 people, and, you know, so that's why that number's so big, because it represents probably nearly a third of our workforce.
What page is that?
That's page 15.
Sorry. Okay.
So Brian brought up a good point, too. The police department has much more retirees that are eligible for some of these benefits, so our total budget was 550, Brian, and what was 530 was police. So the police department is a thing unto itself, but it is a very large department.
What is, explain that part again, 530, 550?
So retiree health benefits, actually, it's retiree health and dental, just dental is much smaller, so total for the town approximately is 550,000. Of that amount, police make up about 530,000 of that. There's much more retirees, and they're on the plan much longer than most other retirees.
Right. Okay.
So that's before they go on Medicare then? Okay.
That's correct.
Back to page 18, I just wanted to get a clarification on the line at the bottom, fund balance applied. We've got from the 25-26 adopted use of fund balance of 1.659, but then the actual says 0. Can you just explain to us why?
That's a year-end adjustment or a transfer that we'll do at year-end. That's done in June by finance.
I got a few questions, Brian. Slide 20. All right. So I know one of the things you cautioned against at a previous meeting was tapping in too much the undesignated fund balance for additional expenses. Reason being is that we know operating revenues are going to increase in subsequent years related to the high school project. So naturally, as a result of that, the unassigned fund balance as a percentage of operating revenues will decrease. Now, we see the number operating revenues, 96 million here on slide 20. Can you go to slide 17? You see the property tax need? That would, it's the row third from the bottom. That would be the amount each year starting in 26, 27 that would increase the operating revenues, assuming all else stays constant?
Yes, related to the
Okay.
debt, yes. Yep.
Say that again, please. The 9?
I'm working off 2 slides here.
Yeah.
So go back to slide 20.
No, I got slide 2017, the 900,000.
You see proposed operating revenues, 96 million. That amount, assuming all else remains constant, is going to increase beginning of fiscal year 26, 27 by the 962 on the row total property tax need.
Right.
The reason I'm asking that question is I'm trying to get an estimation of what 17% of the operating revenues equates to.
In future years.
Yes.
That's what I think.
So obviously, 17% of 100 million is 17 million. But that's not exactly what we're looking at here, because the property tax need over the next 4 years is at minimum 900,000 each year. So let's start with what's 17% of 96,049,114?
Seventeen percent of what?
16,328,349.
16 million.
All right, let's,
3,000.
just for purposes of exploration here, what's 18% of the 96?
Hold on, I got the Google Calendar. Google's 1.728.
$17,288,840.
All right, so if we wanted to reduce it down to 18% this year, it'd be a reduction of about a little less than 700,000, between 600 and 700,000. Okay, now I want to ask a few other questions on these summary of fund balances, separate slide from that you're presenting here.
Okay.
If you go, one of the things we looked at last year, and if you go to slide 12,
Do we have that?
I think that was a separate thing.
I
it was
don't
given
have
to
that.
us last night.
Oh, which one?
Yeah, it was.
It was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
got it.
So one of the things we did last year was to, the goal of reducing the impact or reliance on general tax revenues was to look to other funds to be able to fund some increases. One of which is when we added personnel related to EMS. We decided instead of relying on general fund revenues to fund that, we instead looked to the EMS billing fund and used that to fund that. That allowed us to reduce, reliance on the tax levy, ultimately reducing the proposed tax rate. Now, this year, looking at a slide, from, I don't know, a few meetings ago, when Chief Stanley presented, it looks like there's an increase in the EMS budget of approximately 350,000, 350 to 400,000.
Yes, I believe so.
So what if, is there any downside to using the EMS billing fund to fund the increases in the EMS budget for this year? As a means to free up some of that tax levy to potentially use toward other sources?
The one aspect of this, which, that the EMS billing fund has also been used for funding the new station. It's not the main funding source, but it's been filling gaps. So in addition to purchasing a few ambulances and some equipment, and now we're funding the station. We also have a new rescue coming online, so there's going to be more revenue coming in. That's been a very difficult fund to track and predict because there's been so much activity.
Yeah, but since we've established it,
Yeah,
there's been a surplus well in excess of what we
Oh, yeah.
anticipated.
yeah,
And we're still seeing that being yielded.
yep.
If you look at this slide, as of 6/30/25, the balance is north of 1.7 million.
That's correct.
And has there been any monies been applied or used from that balance in the current
Yes.
year?
Yes.
And what's that amount?
I am not sure off the top of my
Okay,
head.
Chief
but that's-
Stanley asserted at the meeting that he was here presenting his budget that the balance, I assume as of most current, which was that date, was around 1.4 million.
Yeah, I'm not sure right now. But that's
So
where,
I guess
again,
I'm
the
proposing a
fund has been
potential
used quite a
idea
bit on
here.
on the building the new station. That fund has been used quite a bit there, so I'm not sure as of today's date where we are, or what expenses from the new station remain to come out of that fund to say with the level of certainty where that fund is at this moment. It's positive. I couldn't tell you if right now where it will be ending.
All right. Well, one thing I think is worth considering is use of the EMS billing fund to fund the increase in the EMS budget in this proposed town manager's budget. That would equate to, I think, something less than 400,000. Ultimately leaving that account with about 1 million. Slide 22 on the presentation from March 10th.
Overall, the EMS department is proposed to increase this year to $3,489,694, which is an increase over last year of $223,345.
Okay, but projected, as compared to projected, it's north of 300,000. All right, so what is it again? Just restate that increase?
Sure. $223,345.
Okay. I don't really see much potential downside to using that fund to fund the increases there. The fund isn't depleted by that much. Allows us to shift some of the reliance from the tax levy to this alternative fund, freeing up potential resources toward other areas if we want to explore that. Another fund I want to ask you about is slide 18 on the summary of funds.
If it's helpful, actually, do you mind, I have that, I can put that up, the summary of funds.
Yeah, if you can, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't know that at first that's what you were referring to, but I do have that. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm sorry, what page?
18. Yeah, I want to ask about the Open Space Fund. This is the fund that annually we decide of the amounts we collect in real estate conveyance taxes, we decide, do we want to allocate it to Affordable Housing Fund or Open Space Fund? Now, one of the things we learned when we were talking through potential demolition of certain vacant school buildings, we looked at this fund and the Affordable Housing Fund as ways to sort of fund those costs. And it sort of came to a realization that even though that we've set up this fund with the purpose of being allocated or spent toward open space type activities, we actually have free reign to spend this, free flexibility, because it was sort of a restriction established by the council. Am I correct on that?
I would leave that to the solicitor, but yeah, to my knowledge, everything that's in the account right now is obligated for open space, but not encumbered for an outstanding project, and the council, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, but I would want to check with the solicitor, could be repurposed by the council.
Okay, and can you tell me the amounts that's been spent? We're looking at a 6/30/25 year-end balance of north of 1.4.
Yes.
Can you tell me what's been spent current year?
I don't believe anything.
0.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good news. Well, here's a thought.
One sec. Luke is here in the audience.
Luke, you want to clarify anything I said?
When you present, sorry, I know you're looking at your computer. When you presented about how we were going to fund some of the site and infrastructure costs related to the 3 properties, we couldn't, there was some, we had to pull from one of the funds. Do you remember what we did?
Yeah, well, one of the funds I proposed pulling from was the open space, because to the discussion we had was we could reallocate those funds to the housing project. I don't recall off the top of my head where we landed. There was a lot of discussion at night. We did follow up after that on what use, so I can't remember if we decided to use any of those funds or
I believe
not.
so.
We did.
A portion.
We definitely did.
Right, so just keep that in mind, that in a sense is encumbered for that project, but there was still a substantial amount available within that account.
Can you find the amount? That
Yeah.
should be able to access at this time. I mean, it's very relevant to the
Yeah,
discussion.
I'll take a look at the summary.
Before you leave, is there any impact with potential grants that we're waiting on in terms of the infrastructure for the schools? Not having to use the open space fund?
So I will say this in general with grants. We're going for a lot of money right now. There's been a lot of applications put in with a lot of match obligations. So I would say whether you reserve some funding in open space, or you keep in mind the end of year of replenishment of the CIP funds dedicated to grant matches, we will need some reserve funds available should those projects come through. And also, we have quite a few projects in the hopper that are being implemented right now that are using grant match funds. So it's just something to keep in mind.
And we
I
have,
wanted to ask.
and we have a number of projects underway that we don't have full funding for, which comes to mind Old Mountain Field. You know, we're in phase 2 or 2B or whatever with
Correct.
with Terry's project there. So, and it's not that the policy, it's not a restriction of the funds. It was a policy that reflected the community's values. So I appreciate what I think is my teammates' work to try to find resources, but I think we need to make sure that we also act in a way that reflects the values of the people that put that forward, right? That's community money, and they want us to identify and work on open space projects, new land, new acquisition. And I would feel uncomfortable knowing what land use could create in this community without us having a lot of control over it, that we would want to be in a position to preserve, protect, and acquire any open space land that comes available, because development, the pressure for development, we can't really say no if you follow what's happening.
Just to be clear, I'm not looking to deplete the fund. I'm trying to get a sense of what's in the balance as of most
Okay.
recent, which you're going to get back to us tonight, and trying to explore potential ways where there's flexibility to use alternative ways to fund certain things without relying on increasing the tax levy.
It's certainly a council call. I will just go back to EMS billing for a minute. I just want to throw up one caution, and Brian's right, because I'm helping manage the construction of that station. We have leaned on it a bit, and we've also leaned on it quite a bit with ambulances and CIP money. Instead of using CIP, the discussion I had with Craig was really relying on EMS billing for capital. So we're not, because our capital plan is essentially being depleted over time due to inflation. So the more we can rely on other sources, that's a good strategy. However, I do think there's opportunity future as we expand. We're going to increase billings. So once that levels out over the next couple of years, I do think that is a long-term strategy that is completely viable. And again, it's a council call what you do now. I just want to feel like I'm obligated to throw a little caution up, is that Brian's right. We're a little unstable right now on where that revenue is going to fall. That's all.
So with all that said, no idea of what anticipated year-end budget potential surplus will be as it relates to that fund?
Yeah, we can figure that out. I mean, I know what we've spent on the station. We have a prediction now that station's opening up. We know what we've spent on capital assets. It's a council call. Like, information, we can certainly get you that. It's no problem.
My question would be, of all of the total land in South Kingstown, do we know what percentage of it is preserved?
So I will.
1/3.
I will say that currently there are farm, forest, and open space land that's privately owned, but it's under that umbrella of 30%, which is privately owned, but taxed at the farm, forest, and open space rate, which is substantially less. And they're not required to maintain that. It's protected land versus open spaces is a slightly different thing. Am I correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that. I know that 1/3 is protected in some way, so like.
By like the land trust or?
Land trust, Fish and Wildlife, development rights given up, but I do know it's about 1/3 of the town.
At the last annual meeting of the Land Trust, that's what they reported. 1/3 of the town is open space, 1/3 is developed, and 1/3 is available.
But of that third that's protected, it does not mean that it is never.
Protected in perpetuity.
Correct, because
Right.
somebody might be taxed under the farm, forest, and open space and own that because it's a lower rate, as I understand it, and they're not, but it doesn't mean they always have to have it that way. They could change their mind. So I hear what you're saying, but I also would say to you, we hear from the community about expanding parks, pressure. You know, there's 1,000 people who signed a petition about Wakefield School. That's what that money could be used for, to convert that fully into a park. So while I want to be respectful of other needs and trying to identify sources, I don't know if that's the place I would go. Personally, I wouldn't do that. I would want to do harder work like you did last night, Rory, identifying where we could find additional savings and resources for the schools.
For our council, I just want to point out that most land in a land trust is conserved in perpetuity, so forever.
But that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, I'm just saying,
There's
in a
other-
land
There's
trust.
other land that people think is protected and it's not. But it looks
Absolutely.
like that.
I was just wanted to let everybody
I know.
know about that fact. And that's all.
Luke, any success on finding those figures?
No pressure.
All right, any other thoughts?
So I do have some general thoughts, not about trying to specifically find resources for money. I think last night was, I think they did an excellent job. I went home and thought, I've seen 4 or 5 different superintendents' presentations on the budget, so I think he did a great job of providing the complexity. I said it last night, I'll say it again. I went home and was concerned that we didn't address the lack of completion of the audit and any concerns that any of us have about their ability to present their finances accurately, because that was a concern. And I'm surprised none of us said it, but we didn't say it. So I wanted to say it here, that there were some concerns about their completion of the audit and their request. I wanted to say that there were some communications that people, and I heard it, that we've level funded the schools for 6 years, and that's not exactly true. Last year, we were able to identify an additional $800,000 in resources. They got a transfer of $600,000, and then we assumed full cost of the software for the taxes and the maintenance of some fields, which was about $800,000. So they did have additional resources last year. That wasn't said in a way that I think families and parents of students would hear it. So I do want to say that. It was a one-time transfer, yes, but we did increase what they had this year. I think I heard from all sides that we need to be creative and collaborative. I think from people sitting at the tables and in the audience, we need to figure out how to do what we need to do for the schools and the community in a creative way. There were also, I felt, many unknowns about what's coming. What we didn't say, which we all hope for, and I think we've said before, is if the number of students can be retained and not go to a CTE program at another school, that's going to increase the money, the operating budget of the schools. That could happen as soon as next year, because if you are a rising 9th grader and you know in 1 year you're going to get a brand new high school, you might not choose a different CT. You might not choose a CT and go to a different school. We may see that automatically. It's hard to know. I think paying $2 million in CTEs, that's what I recall from the slide, is a lot of money, and I think that delta is unknown. And so I want everyone to feel or to understand that there are things that we don't know what it will look like. And once we change the floor of what we transfer to the schools, we can't go backwards. I also want to be very creative and collaborative and figure out how we can either meet some of their needs without increasing the transfer, because the unknowns are so unclear. I also don't think we can get anywhere close to 2.5 million in a transfer, because that exceeds the 4, right?
It's actually 3. That's
Right. I hear you. Ultimately, it
for
was
the-
3 with the health insurance.
exactly.
Right.
The 2.5 that they came in asking for changed to 3 because of the notice
Right.
from the
Right.
trust about health insurance.
And I guess I just have to ask Jim, is it your recommendation that we level fund the schools again? That's in your budget. Has your recommendation changed?
Well, that's a big decision the council's gonna have to make. My decision was made when I sent the budget in to level
Yeah.
fund, and I made it for several reasons. I was not given that information beforehand. I really, and even when I learned about it, I couldn't definitively see where, I did not have that slide that you saw last night. So I level funded the school because I could not determine what the true amount was, where it was going, And if that was, and I knew in fact that right away, that $2.5 million was way in excess of what we
Right.
could do.
Right.
So that's why I level funded it. That speaks for itself.
I actually feel like I also walked away last night saying, I think it's important right now to adopt the preliminary budget as is and commit to another work session with the schools where we really identify what they truly need in terms of funds, what they can save, what we can save, what we could figure out how to creatively do, rather than potentially come up with some amount and say, we're going to give them this, and they're going to just meet that floor instead. So I want to do more work together with them. I feel like that's where we need to go. That was my takeaway from last night. It's been a lot to digest in just 24 hours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was glad to see everyone last night at the school committee, on the school committee in the school district, and they answered some of my questions. I think that we're all in agreement that we're trying to make sure that our decision for this budget sets up our future budgets and doesn't overextend ourselves. And I think that this council has proven time and time again that we're pro-education, and there's no question about that. As far as we're calling it a $3 million budget gap now? 3, right? You know, I think that, Mr. President, you have some a good idea here about being creative with some of the some one-time funds, but I would also agree with Councilwoman Bergner that this budget needs, in the future, or next year's budget, we need to work with the school district a lot earlier in order to make sure that we can address some of their operating shortfalls that they're already projecting for the following year. But I do think that this budget should be a bridge budget, and I think we should try to make probably a patchwork of funds to fill that gap. I do think that I'd be interested in seeing what numbers Luke comes up with, and I think that we can try to find a way to meet this gap.
So my apologies, it took a little bit with technology. So is $450,000 out of the affordable housing, $350,000 out of the open space fund. So the only thing I will note is, as you know, we did get a grant for the site preparation of those sites for affordable housing, and there is more funds available in the affordable housing fund that we could lean on.
So
we
what does
could
that bring to the
redistribute.
open space fund balance to?
1.1-ish? 350,000, right, so.
So the balance, based on that, would be $1,091,036.
Thank you.
One thing that, that has occurred to me, and I know we've discussed it, is the difference between the operating and the CIP. So I feel, a little unsure about how that making sure that the CIP funds are being allocated in a way that we have more control over. I know that we've had a lot of problems with maintenance over the years, and I'd really like to make sure that the monies that we're approving for such things are allocated in that way. And I just want to sort of discuss, can we, pull back a little bit on the CIP stuff? Yeah, Deb, you can.
So I asked Jim, what is the amount in the school's CIP? No. They presented something.
The
It
budget,
was
I
hard.
asked that last night, the budgeted amount from the school committee.
They had
They-
designated $1 million for it, but I think that's now getting moved to operations.
Where does it say that? Because I think I'm with Patty, and I agree with Patty that we should be thinking about the operating budget and the CIP for the schools as separate entities, and funding for one is separate from funding from the other.
Right, because I feel like I mean, as far as the educational component, I feel like there's less, I mean, I feel like they do a good job with that, but the maintenance is just not working the way that it's set up now.
Also, just a note, I have talked to Jim about his budget, the municipal budget does not include any increase in the abatements, which we may be talking about at a subsequent meeting, because, I mean, I think a homestead exemption becomes impossible, and then, the only thing we can do is an abatement of some, increase in abatements, and then where does that money come? Because Jim hasn't allocated any additional funds for that.
Well, I have a good idea about that based on a bill that was submitted, but I don't know if this is not the right time to talk about it.
I don't see, I had the school thing yesterday, and I couldn't read it, but
There were two,
packets.
there are
Oh, this
actually
is it.
two different documents.
This might be it?
That one says that their capital improvement
So
projects would be 1.479.
this actually kind of proves my point about, I don't know where we're going to land with the school budget and the transfer and all of those things. That's why I'm saying, let's approve the preliminary budget. Let's commit to another work session. Let's work hard. There's some very smart people here. There are very smart people here. And to try to figure out how we can meet two needs, right? Meet the needs of the community with responsible spending, and meet the needs of the schools and provide appropriate funds. That's sort of, we can't do it here on the fly without them, and we can't do it here without more work from the town staff.
Brian, can you pull up the EMS billing fund?
Did you find it?
Please, thanks.
Where are you? What page is that? What is that? Of what?
This is what I was asking him about last night.
He has no money?
He has nothing on this, but elsewhere, he does.
All right, so just so I'm clear, as of last year, we have $1,748,522 in the EMS billing fund.
I don't know what that is.
That's correct.
And do we have an updated number as of today?
I do not.
Do we think it's roughly the same thing, higher,
This is-
lower?
I'm not sure. I know within the town's operating budget for the current year was about 1.1 million coming from the EMS billing fund to the general fund. That transfer has already happened, but they've also taken in revenue from July through February. So and then there's been expenses related to the new station. I'm not really sure where they are at this time. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay. So Brian, can we take money from the EMS billing fund and put it into, and use that money for funding that we've already paid for the EMS for EMS from the general fund, and that will free up money that we can use for other things?
So, there's one FTE in this budget for an EMS personnel. That would not bring us to the staff we need to operate the new EMS building fully staffed for 24/7. It would only be at peak moments. We need to hire 4 more people. And this type of fund is something that, we were planning on using to hire the 4 additional staff. Each one comes with paying benefits, at least $100,000 each.
Not proposing this, Brian, but, of this EMS funding, how much could you technically lower it while keeping it to a respectable level that you would find comfortable, keeping the integrity of the fund?
We'd have to, I'd want to have some discussions with Mr. Stanley, the town manager, Luke. I'm not sure, right, as we stand right now, we'd have to see first where we are at this moment. So revenue that's been taken in, expenses that have gone out related to the new station. We're going to have a new truck coming online. We've had 2 trucks, we're now going to have 3, so there's going to be more revenue, but we'd have to talk to Craig about what projections there are there. What capital needs does he have in the future that we would plan on drawing from that fund, so we don't have to need the CIP? So we have some work. As the town manager mentioned, we were planning on funding some future positions, so I think all of that needs to be factored in. We need to have some discussions, and we can certainly get back to you on that.
I think we also need to remember that we have this community paramedic program hopefully coming online, and that's going to generate money. So that's going to generate revenue for us. So to cut ourselves off at the kneecaps.
Well, I don't know if it's going to generate exactly what you think. It's going to, so the paramedic program costs us about $100,000 a year. When I was sitting and testifying in that room, talking to Craig about what he would estimate, in rough terms, be between $25,000 and $30,000 a year would come in on that. So
From, like, there's not going to be any more from insurers? Like,
that's from the insurance. He does, we don't,
'Cause
we don't,
those-
we don't think it can cover it all.
Right.
But it's so preliminary right now, we don't know.
I know that, that talks with the Blue Cross and stuff are ongoing, like,
It
right
is,
now.
but we don't know what rate they would give us.
They got to give us more than that.
Well, we
Oh,
don't know.
we don't know.
We don't know. That's the
feel
thing.
like
It
they
could,
need to.
I just don't know. If you noticed that night when we were testifying, they're trying to come up with rates as well. Are they going to give you $12 a visit, or are they going to give you 50 or 100? We don't know that.
For what it's worth, I don't think we can make budget decisions based on a new program that isn't even authorized by the legislature yet to be funded.
Well,
I'd be interested to know that answer that you don't have tonight. Thank you.
I'm going to just say, I just want to commit to doing some more work on the budget. This is great in some ways because we're trying to solve problems collaboratively. We're looking for everything that we can. It's hard for me to think about, there are unknowns, right? First of all, I don't know how I don't know how the transfer comes, right? I've spoken to Jim about how can we provide funds to the schools to meet their capital needs and maintain a level transfer, to do both at the same time. Walk and chew gum, really, to do both. But we can't do that on the fly right now because Rory last night expertly, like an incredible cross-examination, identified, I think, about $500,000 in reductions that the school could ask. We should give them the opportunity to try to find them. For Curtis Corner, it's about $80,000. Did they account for that? They didn't really have a lot of good answers when Rory was asking those questions. We need to do more work. And I hear what you're saying. We started back in December. We didn't know they were coming with a $2.5 million ask. That came on February 14th to Jim what's the word? Not proactive, like we didn't proactively know it. It was, I don't know, just landed. And so that's hard, right? And that shows in some ways a lack of understanding on the school part because we don't have, the 4% cap only means X, whatever that is, right? I also wanted to say, and I didn't say this last night, and we should have said it, I think it was said that the municipal side by Chair Vetter that we had a 5% increase on the town side. We do, but half of that is the school debt. So we are, as a municipality, contributing an increase in spending on school things. It's a 2% increase of the tax increase is school money that's on Brian's slide tonight, correct? So it's I think the implication was the municipal side gets 5%, why might the school not? And I don't think that's accurate. I don't know what they're talking about.
I got a few more substantive questions about the budget.
I think we should ask the questions, and then there are two members of the public here ought to get a chance to speak before we
Fair.
delve further.
So the rental registration fees, where are that accounted for in the budget?
On page 18, in the Department Revenue Fines and Charges within building permits.
And how much do you have budgeted in this? Let's start with projected 25-26. Let's start there. What do you got as far as rental registration fees in the projected budget? 18. Department revenues, fines, charges.
Yeah.
So we, we're still open. We're right around that 700 mark of, between applications and.
Hold on one second. Before we get to what we have as far as number that have registered, I want to get an understanding of what's projected in this budget. I'm going to compare that then to what are the numbers that have registered. So let's start one at a time here.
So while Brian's looking, could you just, for the public, answer the question? You have how many permits filed, or applications filed? 700?
It's right around that number.
Okay.
But once again, that hasn't been paid yet. There's still a lot of
That's
pending.
fair.
So we're like 450 complete, maybe another 200 in process, and,
And there's two different fee structures. One is
Right.
50 and one's 300.
right.
What's the percentage about? I'm not holding you to, I'm just for the public
I
explaining it.
don't have it in front of me, but they give me a breakdown every Friday. I don't have it in front of me.
Oh,
I
did
might
you-
have it in my office.
Did you
but
email it to us last week?
I did.
I thought you did. So, let me look that up. I was trying to fill your time, Ryan.
So we have the breakdown as far as number of short-term versus number of long-term that have registered?
Yeah.
Okay. And while you're finding that, Brian, can you tell me the amount that's included in this budget?
For
Current
next year, I have.
Sorry, fiscal year 25-26, current year projected.
That I don't have for that account right now.
Okay.
I have for next year that, I have one account that is brand new for next year. That's a new account number, no prior history. So I'm making.
So
this
that
up.
I can infer from what you said that there are no amounts included in the current year budget
Correct.
for the rental registration fees.
At least budget-wise, have we taken in anything? I don't have the account open right now to see if we've
Okay.
taken, but for next year, this account, we have $5,500 budgeted.
5,500?
That's correct.
So Jim's email from Friday, there's 383 less than 30 days and 111 over 30 days. He said there's 494 completed applications and 177 in process.
All right, I just want to crunch this math.
Yep.
Can someone crunch that? I just want to confirm again, Brian.
I
I'm
don't
looking
know.
at the projected column 25-26.
Yes.
Is there anything there included related to rental registration fees?
I don't believe so at this
So,
time.
so zero.
I believe
But in
so.
actuality, we know that there were 700 rentals registered, which is going to generate a fee of, did anyone run the math?
Well, we have like two fee structures, plus some people have a cap of 1,000, so I feel like a town staff, I can't really tell you what it is because Wendy could. The thing to think about, Rory, is there's also, that fee is supposed to, we were sold for enforcement, for Jamie to go out and that was what we were presented, that there was.
I mean, all I'm pointing out is there's amounts not included in the projected budget that will increase the net surplus for the year ended 6/30/26.
Oh.
That's all I'm pointing out. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get a sense of what that number is.
Yeah, and the only thing I just want to point out as part of the projections out of here, that is again through February 28th. I know this program was relatively new at that point, so I don't know if I would have had much at that point.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to cut something, I think there was some discomfort about the flying over assessment thing. We could find $10,000 if you want to find $10,000.
I think we found at least 50,000 here. I mean, I'm going to go on a limb and say at minimum.
From where?
From the amount of rental registration fees earned in the current budget that are not included in the projected current budget.
Not 50,000. There would be
Well
no
in
way.
excess of 50,000.
How could you do that? How could it be?
Well, 700 permits times, let's just assume they're all $50, that gets us to 35,000. Now, if we sort of allocate that out, let's say half are subject to 300, that puts us north of 50,000. But anyway, I'm going to move on from that. My next question relates to Wakefield School. So we made a decision to move forward with demolishing the building. I don't know when we anticipate that it will be demolished, hopefully at some point in the next fiscal year, correct? Okay. Now, the annual cost associated with keeping the building up, I would assume is around 70 to 80,000.
For the elementary school,
Wakefield,
Wakefield Elementary, it's
Yeah.
about 60,000.
60,000?
Yes.
All right. So depending on when exactly that gets demolished, that will free up, I guess, a portion of 60,000 next year. Does our budget account for that?
I would have to check with Mr. Russo on that. I know in the current year, I believe we took the building over mid-year, and I don't believe, we did not have funding in the current year, FY '25-26 for Wakefield. I am not sure, I'd have to check with Mr. Russo if that is included in next year's or not, or where that is. I'm not sure right now.
Okay. Okay. All right, any other questions before we let it go to public comment?
No. I'm good for now.
I have one last question. I want to get some certainty on this, because it seems unclear. We got different slideshows. It was discussed last night. It still is not totally clear to me. Has the school, in its budget, allotted or included any amounts toward capital improvement plan? Fiscal year 26-27? It's not clear to me that they have or they have not. And that's relevant to the sense of if we decided we'd give them an increase, but only in the form toward capital improvement, how are we going to do that if they have zero included in their budget for that amount fiscal year 26-27?
That's not crystal clear to me as well. I was trying to look at their capital fund today. As you saw, within the fiscal year 25 audit, they had assigned, designated at 1,140,000 approximately to their capital fund. They did a lot of work within FY '25-26. I don't think there is that much left from that, and it looks like they're moving $1 million from fund balance, as they showed last night, from fund balance to operating, to cover their operating budget. Is that $1 million from their undesignated fund balance or from capital? I am not sure on that. They weren't really clear where that $1 million was coming from their fund balance. I'm with you on that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Can I just clarify that? The last night when the school committee was here, I asked the superintendent about this because the document that we were handed that's entitled South Kingstown School Department Fiscal Year 26-27 Proposed Budget, well, it says revenue summary there, but when you get to account number 57,000 under the UCA listings, they show for 26-27 zero expenditure. But then there's this other document, fiscal year 2027 proposed budget, that shows on the last page, which is 28. I'm going to go blind here. Where did it go? Property capital expenditures. It shows a total expense in the 26-27 year of $1,479,000. So somebody's got different documents.
I don't mean to be difficult, but I don't know how anyone could feel comfortable changing anything for the schools right now. I hear you that you would like to. I hear you that you want to. It's fine that we could. I just don't want to do it without any evidence that makes sense. Because once you change the floor, you change the floor forever. We've said it a million times. Jim's budget, 99% of the time, this council and every council I've ever operated with follows the manager's recommendations on purchases, decisions, policies. He's not saying to make a change right now. We can override him, but what's the harm in getting an additional piece of information? It's too important to get wrong in the middle of a $150 million high school, in the middle of trying to have meaningful property tax relief and a homestead exemption. We have so many things. I don't understand. I appreciate what you want to do. Could you not see a little bit of like, go slow? Or
Do we want to do the public comment before we get into debate?
Yes, we do. Go ahead.
So I like what the council president's doing. He's trying to find savings that aren't there, right? Or aren't, that are there but are on paper. And my question is, in that vein, like Brian, can you come back with us with a list of what is legally available for like reallocation, even if it's small amounts, so we could see what our subtotal is to try to meet that obligation? Maybe in the future.
The one question I would make there, I think you're talking about from the spreadsheet, the all funds summary.
Correct.
Those would all be deemed as one-time revenue sources, and if you transfer those over to the school to cover operations, you will then own them next year. You will owe those amounts next year, and those, you're talking about pulling money from
can we
one-time revenue
use
sources.
sorry to interrupt, can we use the funds for town operations and then that frees up funds
So-
otherwise?
They're two different, with all due respect, they're
Sure.
two different questions.
Okay.
I think I understand what you're asking for is, tell us what we have in funds that can be reallocated. Hard stop.
Right.
Then the next thing, Brian's point is, we wind up, essentially, if we use those for operational expenses for the town or the school, it winds up putting us in the position of a structural deficit in future years. However, I also got to make this point. We've been talking about the floor and not wanting to change the floor. I think the chair of the school committee made a good point last night that this is what we've been doing and this is why we've been doing it for the last 6 years. From the day I went on the school committee in 21, there was a solid majority of members of the school committee that wanted to right the ship. And we have redistricted, we've closed 2 schools, we've cut full-time equivalencies, and what they were telling us last night is, we've reached the end of that strategy. Now, that being said, I don't think we can continue to keep the floor at 55.9 forever. I'm all for
I agree.
trying to be creative. I can't see giving them $3 million more this year from any source. We need to figure out what can be limited in their budget, because it's 72% of every tax dollar we're spending, and where we can meet them halfway maybe, and where we can maybe share resources or do something short of just writing a check. There may be things that we can do, and capital improvement is one of them, but it is a big unanswered question given these documents.
So, all of this is at a very sort of esoteric level. I'm a more practical person. So, for me, what I would like to see is, I'd like to see somebody riding on all the bus routes. If it were me and I was in charge of that, I would be on every one of those buses, and I'd be seeing how many kids were on it, and looking at where we could cut back. I would also be looking at, for instance, the school lunch program, for instance. I asked a question last night about why was there going to be more revenue from kids buying their lunch, and I got, or kids buying like components rather than getting the free lunch. So what I heard was that the kids don't like the free lunch, so they'd rather spend their allowance on a candy bar. Now, it wasn't said directly like that, but I know that you got, a food service provider, which I happen to know a lot about catering, and you got somebody in there that's, maybe there could be better choices. It does not make sense how in this time of economic hardship that kids are finding money to go get a candy bar because the lunch isn't edible. So that, like practical things like that. I didn't feel confident in the information that we were getting last night. I was very, impressed with a lot of the things that Rory said last night. I thought he raised a lot of good issues. They need to come back with some responses to those things, because even me as like a non-accounting person, I didn't feel comfortable with a lot of the explanations. So
But before we keep deliberating, I think we should open
Sure.
it up to
So
the
the two
public.
people.
Anyone who's out there wishing to speak, I invite you to come on up. We just ask that you introduce yourself.
The 7th and the 8th members. Or 6th and 7th.
Brett Harrington, Wakefield. Yeah, I agree with Deb. Have them come back, or all of you guys, have the school committee come back, sharpen their pencils. And I know I don't do well with we can't, that can't happen. As I said last night, their contract has to be examined, okay? If there's a 12% increase in healthcare and, what you said, 9%, and dental, it's time to share. It's time to share. I got a $5,000 deductible. My health plan is crap. And I know when I retire, I'm not going to get it from my employer. I'm not getting it from my employer now, okay? It's time to step into the real world, these guys. I mean, they've got this gravy train that we can't touch. That has to stop, okay? I've said it every time I come up here. I want a represent from you guys or from you guys to be at that contract, that litigation, okay? For them just to say, oh, well, and as they said last night, well, we did we hired a few people, but we couldn't hire them on step 1. We had to hire them on step 5 because that's the competitive, that's to be competitive. Again, it's been talked about other towns, Narragansett, East Greenwich. Doral and Jim come up with a lot of numbers, and I want you guys to look at and say, how can these other districts do it cheaper than we are? And it's got to come down to the contracts. And I've said before, it's different than somebody working at McDonald's and getting your fries screwed up, okay? With the school systems, this is all the way it works. I mean, if I'm a lousy teacher, but I've been there for 30 years, and this guy over here is a new teacher, and he's coming in, and the kids are really clicking with him, he's got new ideas, they really like it, well, we decide we got to cut. I stay, I'm mailing it in, that teacher's gone, okay? Who suffers? We always talk about the kids. The kids suffer that's in front of me that don't get a do-over the next year. And I'll talk from experience. When I was in 1st and 2nd grade, I was passed on straight Fs in public school. I thought it was because, I didn't make any trouble, the teachers didn't want to hold me back because, he's not a problem in class, and we want to keep him, with his class. That had nothing to do with it. What had to do with it was they didn't want to lose my number on the count, because then they may lose an FTE. That's what it basically boiled down to. And they always say, when we come to things like we go to the referendums, we go to this, we got the band, we don't want to lose the band teacher, we don't want to lose the music teacher, any of this. That's right. We don't want to lose those because we can't touch your contract. They're not going to give anything up. It's got to come from the kids. So that's a little disingenuous when they're like, oh, the kids. It's time to look at the contract and get these people in the real world. And then there's some savings there. But you're right. Get them in here, and it's not just, this town. I mean, I've only lived in another town, and that was Coventry. And when I used to go to the meetings, like I am here, the difference between here is every meeting I came to, 3/4 of these seats were full. This is a joke. I mean, I've said it before. I can't water my lawn. It's standing room only. $150 million school bond, crickets. And then the lady comes up last night, conveniently after she waited for us to talk, and says, you know, you had your school bond, and that was killed 4-1, and then you had the school. We might have lost, the vote on the new school, but I'd love to see maybe 20,000 of the 22,000 voters show up for a vote. I mean, how pathetic is that? We've got a 2-week vote, and only 7,200 people can get bothered to get off their you-know-what and come vote. Pathetic. But anyway, when I was at the, in Coventry, it was the same way. And the 2 towns I've been, it's always difficult. The council and the school committee are like, it's like a deception show. You know what I mean? Let's not tell them all. I mean, it kind of slipped out, like the other night when we said about these retirees, still getting health care when they retire. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? And that's just something that happened to slip out. I mean, I can only imagine what this contract has in it, but that's where I think we really need to go, because, I don't mind paying top dollar, but I don't care what they say. It's results, In my career, if I screw up an exam and what I'm doing in radiology, I can't say, don't blame me, blame it on your parents, okay? Your parents aren't doing their job. Come on. I guess that's enough. Since when do I ever go to the beeper?
Good timing.
Thank you.
Are you going to just
Oh,
everything I just said?
Elizabeth Nestor, I live in Wakefield. I'm just saying it's very interesting to watch the careful deliberation. I'm glad you're responding to what the school said last night. I'm sure everything can be reevaluated, but the contract's probably not this year. Anyway, thank you.
Jim, can you ask Mike if, given the extraordinary increases in health and dental, if we can reopen?
So you would like to have a work session? Is that what you'd like to have when you say
No,
reopen?
just an opinion from Mike as to whether or not that's a possibility for the school department. I mean, we couldn't do it.
You mean reopen their
The
budget?
collective bargaining agreements
Oh,
with respect to
oh.
healthcare.
Yeah. I can ask him that question.
Just ask Mike.
Yeah, we all have incurred great, my health care has tripled, so everybody is suffering.
Do we want to give the opportunity to the public to speak, to finish this out before we get back into it? Or are we complete?
there's
All
only
right.
3 people here, and 2 of them are
All right, go
residents.
ahead.
So I wanted to go back to what Patty said about transportation, because someone spoke to me this morning, or I think it was this morning, about busing, and I do think with a $5 million transportation cost, that's one of the areas where we are an outlier with other communities. I mean, Barrington, I think, is 1 square mile, or Central Falls is 1 square mile. They don't have the same busing needs. But someone said, why aren't we counting who gets off the bus? We are spending a lot. They were like, we should buy buses, like was what Doral suggested. We don't want to get into that. I don't really want to get into engineering the school committee. I feel like we have identified that we need to talk to them again. It's really important to get it right. There's too many unknowns. They are negotiating the transportation contract now. Maybe there are savings, right? They may not have it done, but we're talking about the superintendent basically said, not this, but this is what we need, this is our ask, and there was no adjustment. That's not how it really works, right? He just said, I need every dollar, and it's unclear under any circumstances what he's going to reduce, because he cannot get 2.5 to 3 million by law.
I
don't know. I just don't know what we're doing here, except demonstrating that we are creative and collaborative and we want to figure it out. I really want to know one thing from Jim and the staff. Jim, ready? Is it possible, could it be presented in a way that we level fund the transfer, but identify whether we create a capital fund that can the school operate with a level fund transfer of 55, whatever, and then we identify an amount that they can use for capital that meets their 3%? Because I don't want to do a lot of things. I certainly never want to hurt a child. I don't want to hurt the school system. I am incredibly grateful. My 3 children did 36 years of public school education. And they're amazing people. And so I know it comes from the amazing teachers who literally I still know. It's not that. It's about getting it right in a situation where we don't know what the high school will translate to in terms of who we're going to bring back. Once we bring those people back, Kate's like, yeah, if we make more money if we realize more money because the students are retained or we bring people, they're not going to give it back to us, and then we've raised the floor. So how do we creatively give them the same amount of money but also address their needs, whether it's finding money on our side and them identifying reductions that they need to make? That's what needs to happen. I just don't know how we're going to do this with the 7 of us.
So one of the things that I talked about with James Restivo before the other night was he indicated to me that they were going to be doing an opt-in bus schedule rather than just assuming that all the kids were going to be on the bus, because I know, and that seems like it would be very helpful, because like the bus came every day for my daughter, but we live off of 138, so it wasn't like a safe place. So it just seems like opting in would be better than automatically assuming.
Opting in, we did talk about this on the school committee a few years ago. It is difficult, but not impossible. It may or may not wind up actually saving money even if you do it. But we can look at anything. One thing I want to point out to everybody in the room is 75% of the school department's budget, plus or minus, is personnel. So if we level fund, they're going to have to look at staff reductions, which is not necessarily off the table, but we have a calendar issue, because if there are going to be layoffs in collective bargaining units, it has to be by June 1. That's not in the contracts, that's state law.
So, but we have a couple of weeks, right? We have a couple of weeks before the public hearings on the budget.
That's what I'm saying. We got to do this soon.
Yeah. We agreed when we were concerned about the high school project timeline. We all said we will meet any time to make it happen. We don't, right? Anytime. Do we have another 90 minutes to sit down with the school committee? I think we should. It's too important.
We'll have the opportunity, 2 meetings, 2 nights in a row, April 6th, April 7th. Great opportunity to flesh more questions out with them.
But
under charter, we're obligated to pass a preliminary budget before a certain date.
I'm happy to make a
tonight.
motion to pass the preliminary budget as presented, Rory.
Is that a motion?
Nope, not yet. But I'm happy. I would like to make that motion. And then with the commitment from all of us that we have a work session, we work with the superintendent to.
We got 2 public hearings, April 6th, April 7th, to flush out whatever more questions remain. I still have questions, and I plan to utilize that time. No need to have an extra work session.
Well, then we have to give them some direction, Rory.
We passed a preliminary budget tonight. That's an indication of where we stand as of now. You want to make a motion to pass the manager's budget? Make the motion.
Are you going to give me a second and then vote it down? Because you did that to me once. So I just want to know if you feel comfortable, we can give Jim and Brian some direction about where we want them to how we want them to communicate with the school department. In other years, Rory, Councils have said, school department, sharpen your pencils, find a way to close the gap. We didn't even say that last night.
We're going to have opportunities to discuss that. Whatever we adopt tonight is not what we're obligated to pass at the end of April when we do final budget adoption. We always have opportunities to make amendments. You're aware of that. I'm aware of that.
So I guess I'll make the motion because I think it's important. I'll make the motion that we adopt the preliminary budget as presented because I think we can work creatively with the town staff and the school department to identify if it's possible to send the same transfer over and figure out another way like we did last year to find additional funds should they need it. I'm open to holding on to the capital, having town undesignated fund some capital projects. I'm open to anything, but I'm not open to.
So
Go ahead.
the HSOA hasn't been done yet.
Oh, we have to do that too.
Yeah, but we could take up everything else in the budget, fix the amount for HSOA, and then after that, determine the amounts allocated to each agency.
Okay, that's what I want to do. It's just too many unknowns for me to. We would be throwing spaghetti at the wall with some amount to be like this. You have no idea what that is.
All right, so what I'm suggesting that we do,
What?
what I'm suggesting is that we make a motion to pass the budget, whether that be the manager's budget or that with amendments that we identify tonight, fix the amount allocated to HOSA, then thereafter identify the amounts to be allocated to each agency. I think we've come so far on the actual budget side in totality that we shouldn't just switch to HSOA now. Here's a thought I have. School's requesting $2.5 million. It's a very tall ask. We think that it may actually, in actuality, rise to $3 million. Very tall order. But, as, willing, people who corroborate well at the school committee, who feel an obligation to support schools, because schools are important, most important thing in the community, really, and we showed that when we helped push through the high school bond referendum. Some thoughts I have when I identify these different funds is I think there's an opportunity to reduce the open space fund down to $800,000. That's $291,000, okay? What I'm saying there is we use that towards town operations, free up amounts from the general fund revenue, okay? Also, there's the amount in the EMS billing fund. From what I gather based on these conversations is that fund is doing very well. Revenues are anticipating what we expected, resulting in surpluses within that fund. We anticipate additional vehicles to come online which will generate additional revenues. That will be offset somewhat by the additional personnel that we add. It is yet to be seen what we project in the actual revenue and excess of expenses there. But I'm confident based on how this is going up to this date that we're going to experience continued surpluses there. I would like to take the amount, when we look at EMS budget, the amount proposed for 26-27 as compared to projected 25-26, I think that amounts to about 329. You go to that slide, 22. It's on the one from 2 weeks ago.
I don't have the slide with me from 2 weeks ago.
All right, here, take these numbers down.
Yep.
Proposed 26-27, $3,489,694. 25-26 projected, $3,160,288. What's the difference there?
That actually is, so on the bottom of this slide, that I do have those. Okay, so it hasn't changed. I wasn't sure what numbers you were going with, but
What slide?
23. EMS is at the bottom, and I do have the projected in the, so it,
So it's around 329?
23?
329,408.
All right, the idea being that we use the EMS billing fund to fund that increase of 329, freeing up 329 that was to be relied on from the tax levy, okay? Now, the remaining amount to get to 1 million is about 520,000. 291 plus 329 is about 520, so actually 480,000-ish to get us to 1 million.
Yeah.
So then I also propose increasing the use of the unassigned balance by about 480,000. That'll get us to a $1 million increase in the property tax transfer without having any increase in the tax rate in the town manager's proposed budget. So tax rate remains at $9.09, allows us to utilize some of these alternative funds to fund some of the increases in the town's budget, utilize some of that general fund revenue to apply toward the increase in the property tax transfer, and then an increase in the unassigned fund balance of around 480,000. Get us to a property tax transfer increase of about 1 million. Does that make sense, Brian?
Yes.
I just feel really uncomfortable with the
Can you let me just
operation.
finish here?
It just-
What I said makes sense, correct? Not as far as policy perspective, not as far as whether it's a wise decision, but it's a way to utilize certain funds to fund certain town operations, freeing up some of the tax levy that's already accounted for in the manager's budget, reallocating that to an increase in the property tax transfer, increasing some of the unassigned fund balance to be applied toward the property tax transfer, all without resulting in any more tax increase than as presented in the town manager's budget. Can you confirm that is correct?
For FY '26, '27, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, could you also apply that to the grant match reserve fund? It has a total of $915,664 in it.
Luke, we're going to go to you to talk about that.
What did you say, Jay?
The grant match reserve fund has approximately $915,664.
We spent that, some of that.
Yeah, so I would say just because you're seeing that doesn't mean that exists. There are encumbrances that are either pending that are going to go against that. Like, I'll give you an instance. Indian Run Brook, which is going to be renovated soon, we just put it out to bid. We have a $66,500 grant. We've committed to match that in kind, and it's likely the project's going to cost a little bit more. So right out of the gate, we're down $66,500 from that number. Senior Center project, there's multiple other projects that are coming from that fund. I can get you a list of those projects, but I just want to, there's background numbers to this that are leaning against that account. If you take that money away, we will not have a grant match to obligate, and we'll lose those grants. So I can get you those numbers to make sure that we just don't drain that account.
I'm not, just want to be clear that I'm not saying that we should drain the account, right?
Okay.
I just would be interested in knowing how much can you lower an account without affecting all of your operations
So,
of what you're
Yeah,
trying to do.
I was talking earlier about actually increasing the fund because with all the grants we have out there, we're over obligated.
Thanks.
So one of the questions that I asked last night about the charter schools is that when I was looking at the budgets for Compass School, there's a ton of grants, and I'm wondering, I noted last night that there's nothing in that line category from the schools, and I'm wondering if we could impress upon the schools that they really should be going after grants as much as possible, because, like the Compass School got $50,000 just for one school. We have 5 schools. So it seems like if they were, they could be more proactive in seeking those. I would love to know that they were seeking grants.
so just a question. Procedurally, I made a motion. I don't think anyone seconded it.
Did you make a motion?
I did.
All right, you made a motion. Is there a second?
I didn't think there was one. And then you said, I would like to do all of these other things. So I'm just procedurally asking.
I thought I asked you, is there a motion?
You did, and
said
then I
not
came
yet.
back and I said, okay, I will do it. And I said, I'll move that we.
All right. You want to revive that motion? Or treat it as if it was motioned? I'll ask for a second.
I did. You going to give it a second, Patty?
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Just to
Yeah.
be clear, what is it that you made a motion on?
That we adopt the preliminary budget as presented. We ask the school department and the HSOA as presented. And then we ask the,
Do that first, though? We haven't even done this yet.
So you have a motion to pass the town manager's budget as is, essentially.
as presented, and then work with the school, because we can make changes. Like I said, asking Jim and Brian to figure out if we level transfer this to the schools, like Josh Staley said, could we get creative and figure out a way to fund the schools without increasing the transfer, like we did last year. I think, I'm continuing to say the same thing. There are many unknowns. Our brains are trying to identify how to close a gap, fund the schools so that they can function, and we can also be responsible to the rest of the community. I'm asking for time. I don't necessarily know if that's what I would vote for at the final adoption, but I think that we're spinning our wheels we don't know what the number is. You identifying $1 million, how'd you get to that number? You just found $1 million.
I walked through how I got there. The motion is to pass the town manager's budget as is. There is a second. Any further discussion?
I have discussion. I am not comfortable voting for this budget as is, and I would like to continue to look for alternatives like the president has already been trying.
Right, but you misunderstand, Jay. Okay. Because, go ahead, Mike, sorry.
A couple of things. One, motions ought not be
Books.
paragraphs. I think Rory summarized it correctly, but Patty's got a point. We have not discussed the HSOA portion of it, and that has to be part of the motion as well. I think at some point you had said essentially level fund as the town manager proposed for the HSOAs.
Yes.
All right. So that's what that motion is.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion?
Well, I really would like to discuss the outside agencies because I've personally thought a lot about them.
So what this motion essentially does is it fixes the amount allocated to HOSAs at the 182,000 approximate in the town manager's budget. After this motion is taken up and something gets approved, then we're going to move to how the actual 182,000 is going to be allocated amongst the agencies.
I mean, to be clear, I want to continue to work to fund the schools for what they want. I do not, I mean, obviously there's need here, but we're just trying to sort of balance two opposite things. And I'm not really sure whether it's best to adopt it now and tell the school committee that we need this extra data, or do it like Rory is suggesting. I mean, that $1 million, sort of allocation from those funds sounds good to me. And I don't want to increase, the tax rate any more than what we have to do.
The proposal I made does not increase the tax rate.
Right, I like that.
Do you want to increase the transfer? Do you want to increase the transfer to the schools?
Well, I mean, the question is, in the next couple of years,
We're going to need to?
well, we'll have more data so that we'll know how many kids come back, and so we'll have a much more realistic view of what the picture looks like. My understanding, if we were to.
I know that I come across as the person who never wants to give the schools any money. That's not how I feel. I think that we don't have enough information. I think it's a year or a year and a half away from really determining where that transfer is. Because I can't, you deciding or you finding $1 million that we can use, it might not be enough. It's just some random number. Not a random number, but it's an arbitrary number that we could create. So I'm just trying to figure out if we met with them and they came back and said, we can work it for 9, we can do all of these things, and Jim says we can do this over here and move this over here. We just don't have any time to do it. And I'm not saying that's where we land. I'm saying we pass the preliminary budget now and the staff continues to work on things and they come back with amendments that we deal with at the public hearing.
Good.
I did not understand what you said about we're a year and a half away from knowing about the transfer.
Well,
What transfer?
because we have many unknowns. We don't We don't know how many ninth graders will not choose a CTE and they'll retain.
School enrollment transfer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, so, we just don't know. There's so many things. We don't know what the high school will look like in terms of enrollment. They may need more money. I'm not about not giving them what they need. The last 6 years, they have had what they need. Again, we have said you can come back and come to the undesignated fund. Different people at the council, we all were here saying that. So I don't know how to serve both of those things, because I think a level transfer makes sense because of the unknowns. Even for the next 30 days, we don't know. We'll get more information. And there may be more that we could identify, as Rory has been expertly hunting down. I just don't know why we want to come up with an amount tonight with no real information from the school department. And honestly, we have been disappointed in their financials up until this point, and transparency. So it's too big of a decision. Once you raise the floor, you've committed to that. It's too big of a decision to get wrong. Let's try to get it right, and then I'll agree, and we'll all agree, and it'll be a 5-0.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
They came in asking for 2.5 million. Because of the health insurance and dental, that went up to 3, and that's the figure that I keep coming back to in my head. I don't think if we approve the motion the way Rory stated it, with 1 million, that we're even saying to the school committee, you've got that and that's the floor. I think we still have to talk with them. But I don't think, and I said it an hour ago, I don't think we can keep the floor the same going forward. I think we have hit the limit, and the school department is going to have to look at reducing FTEs if we keep the floor the same. I also have a concern, and I expressed it last night, about the capital improvement program maybe having a 0 line item for next year. And that's definitely an area where I think we could retain funds.
Yes.
And they've got to come to us and say, we've got this project, this is what it's going to cost, cut us a check for that.
That's what I agreed. I 100% agree that we could be, that's what I'm trying to.
But I don't think it can't be an either or. I think it has to be a little of both.
So
That's all I'm suggesting.
You think, well,
I think there has to be some for operating, and capital improvements, I think, is a different animal that we can retain control.
so what you're saying is you want to increase the transfer and you want to identify, create a capital fund that the town controls.
And just to be clear, in addition to the 1 million that I identified in my thoughts, there's also the around approximate, which I think is conservative, 400,000, an increase of fund balance that they did not include in their presentation, which includes 250,000 of anticipated budget surplus year-ended fiscal year 26, 80,000 of unaccounted savings related to the the demolition of
Right.
Curtis Corner, and then they anticipate 18 CTE students coming back to the public schools. We don't know what that will yield in savings, but we know it costs $20,000 per student to go. So even if a fraction of them come back, conservatively saying 70,000 saved by the 18, at least a portion thereof coming back, that gets us to $400,000 total they didn't account for that would increase their fund balance. So this 1 million plus that 400, it's around 1.4. I mean, that's a good faith, starting point. Obviously, there's more information to flesh out. I look forward to fleshing out more information, but we have an obligation to pass a preliminary budget. What we adopt tonight is not what passes end of April. We always have opportunities to amend. That could be decrease the amount to the schools. That could be decrease the property tax transfer as compared to what we passed tonight. If we increase it tonight, reallocate it to an increase in their capital improvement plan, whatever. We have a lot of different options, but
Do you want to vote on my motion?
I do. There's a motion, there's a second. Any further discussion? Okay, the motion is to approve the town manager's budget as presented, which includes no increase in the property tax transfer, tax rate of $9.09.
and level funding the HSOA.
And HOSA remains flat at the approximate 182,000. All right, I'm asked the clerk to take the roll on this.
First night.
Me, aye.
Councilmember Bergner?
Aye.
Council Vice President Marin?
Nay.
Council President McEntee?
No.
Councilmember Alley?
Aye.
Councilmember Wedgemont?
Nay.
The motion fails.
3-2, is that correct?
Yes, 3-2.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to make a motion
Wait.
to,
Why do you make the motion?
I have the ability to make a motion just as any other council member does.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to include a lot of what I already told you, Brian. Do you want to reiterate that so we're clear?
I was going to verify the numbers because I was scratching them down pretty quickly with the clerk, but approximately 281,000 from open space.
So the effect of that is to reduce that fund down to 800,000.
Yes, and
Okay.
that's, yes. So, correct, okay, thank you. So that's reducing open space to 800,000, which is approximately 281,000. Increasing the draw from the EMS billing fund by 329,408. And the balance, to get to $1 million, netting those two numbers to get to $1 million, increasing the amount of use of fund balance.
And what's that amount?
Approximately 600.
600, okay, that doesn't add up to me.
No, yeah, it's,
Let's get these numbers correct.
Can I ask a question? Luke, could we use or 100,000 from the grant match reserve fund while still maintaining everything that you're doing?
I feel like this is the
I just want to
irresponsible
hear
part.
from Mr. Murray first.
I know.
Yeah, listen, the council can do whatever it wants. The reality of the situation is that we have a lot of obligations against it, and the grants that we just put in would over-obligate that fund. So at a future date, if we get any more grants, we are going to. have
Luke,
to
I'll
come
answer
up.
that.
So,
No.
Yeah, this is
We
Great,
can't.
thank you.
cobbling
No, they can't.
ourselves.
We can't. we-
That's
you-
okay, thank
No,
you.
I'm okay with all the other ones. That one, we've got a lot of grants coming, and we've overspent already, so I don't see taking that one would be prudent.
I appreciate you letting me know. Thank you very much.
he's more succinct than I am.
Thank you, Luke. I
Luke,
appreciate it.
can you remain up here at the podium? Can you restate the balance in the open space fund?
So off the top of my head, I'm going to.
You got a laptop that you can refer to give an accurate balance?
So you're saying on the 350,000 that we allocated to the housing?
I'm talking about the amount in the open space fund.
I got that.
1.092?
So the balance as of the 6/30/2025 audit was $1,441,036. 350,000 was taken out of that. So now the adjusted balance would be $1,091,036.
Okay, so the use of that fund balance to be applied, instead of relying on the tax levy, should be approximately $291,000.
Correct.
Bringing that balance down to $800,000.
Correct.
Okay? Now, the use of the EMS billing fund to be applied toward EMS operations should be the amount by which the proposed budget is in excess as compared to the projected 25-26. That is approximately 329.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes. So I think I have it now. Sorry.
Okay.
So the amount coming from open space, lowering the balance in open space to $800,000 would be $291,036. The additional amount coming from EMS billing fund would be $329,408. And the balance of funds to reach $1 million would be $379,556, which would be an additional draw on the undesignated fund balance, for a total of $1 million.
You sure that 370 is correct?
It was
To me, it's around 480.
291,036 from open space, 329,408 from EMS. That's a total of 620,444,
To get to $1 million, you have 480 left.
379,556.
480. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. Okay, so all while keeping the tax rate at $9.09.
Second.
The one question I would just, I know where
Yeah.
you're going, I just, for confirming, you're increasing, this is increasing the revenue by $1 million. You haven't designated where this is, what's happening on the other side of the ledger.
Increasing the revenue by $1 million?
This would be increasing the general fund by $1 million, moving all these monies into the general fund, transferring funds from open space into the general fund by 291, transferring it EMS 329, and transferring 379 from, so that's, you're increasing the revenue. I have an idea where you're going on expense, I haven't heard the other end of the amendment. I just wanted to make sure I had that correct,
Increasing the property tax transfer by $1 million.
to the schools.
That's what the property tax transfer is.
Well,
Yes.
we got transfers to the, like, debt service as well, there's other.
All right,
I just wanna-
increase in $1 million
Yep.
going to the schools.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, we got a motion, we have a second, any discussion? Go ahead.
So you want to raise the floor and not designate it in a capital fund that we administer?
Not on the proposal I gave, no. There's opportunities to flesh that out later. I think that would be a good move, and am open to that. The problem is, they don't have anything budgeted for capital improvement. So we give them $1 million, what does that get us?
So this is likely to pass in my head, and then the school department still has a $2 million shortfall. So if by a miracle, they say, we can close that gap, was their initial ask accurate, fair, transparent to us?
There's no way to answer that question.
Correct. There isn't any way.
Not at this table. You can ask them, and we do need to meet with them soon. But it's the same thing, it's the other side of the coin from your motion, which is, we're not saying this is what's gonna happen in the final. I
But
said before, they gotta come in and talk to us.
So Rory, I could vote for this if it's not an operating transfer, if we just identify the revenue, but not, do we have to indicate how that million in revenue is spent tonight?
Do we have an obligation to do that? Identify how the revenue is spent? Or can we leave that open as to capital improvement or school operating?
I would feel much more comfortable if if it was identified as for school capital expenses.
The
Can you
budget has
answer
to be
that?
balanced. The budget has to be balanced, so it's got to go somewhere. It has to be, the budget has to be
So
balanced.
it does have to identify it.
Can we
Yes.
create a town-managed, school capital fund that we manage? Can we create a fund?
You
A
have
line
one.
item?
The town has one.
The town has one. Is that where the housing aid comes back to?
The housing aid comes back to debt service fund, but we do have. Page 20. Yes. So right here, the school capital, school improvement fund, excuse me, the second one over on the left, Fund
Could
428.
we put it there? Could we put it in the school improvement fund? Could we put it in the debt service fund and then reallocate it out later? That way, we do two things. We approve a level transfer, but we identified a source of money, and we could always adjust the transfer later.
Would this be amendment to the motion, or would this be,
I'm
this
ask-
just find
I
Brian
don't know.
to kind of groovy on out?
Brian, I got a question for you. Why is it that the proposal I made increases revenues by $1 million? I'm not suggesting that we transfer those amounts to the unassigned fund balance. I'm suggesting that we use that portion identified in the EMS billing fund to fund part of EMS operations. And I'm also saying that we use some of that open space fund to be applied toward town operation expenses, allocated in any which way you choose. And then use of unassigned fund balance, increasing the use of it by that approximate 380. So why does that increase revenues?
Question I asked Brian was, does it have to go to the general fund and be transferred to the schools, or could it just be directly transferred? And his answer was, we've never done it that way, just direct transfer. So what he's saying is it has to go into the general fund and get transferred out. Go in and then out.
So in a prior year, when we decided to use the EMS billing fund to apply some of that fund balance to pay for the FTE increases, that increased total revenues in the budget?
Yes, it did. And similarly, last year, the healthcare management funds, the portion that went to the school department came to the town general fund and then transferred out to the school department. Same as the healthcare management fund that went to the town came in as a transfer into the general fund.
So we're unsure if there's a way to accomplish this without increasing revenues? No, it's not just a paper transfer. For purposes of looking at the fund balance as a percentage of operating revenues, this would decrease that percentage because now we have a new baseline for revenues.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
That's the 17%. That's that he's saying we increase revenue. We increase that 93 million increases the revenue, and then the fund balance changes, and it changes that 17%, 19%, 18%. That's what
The result of this,
I
Brian,
see.
the result of this still keeps the unassigned fund balance north of 18%. Can you quantify that quick? Pretty
Yes,
certain of that.
It would, yes.
And the change in assuming operating revenues increase by just 1 million, and the unassigned fund balance is reduced by that 380 approximate, what does that bring our percentage to?
I was just thinking that.
10 o'clock. Do we have a motion in a second? Are we-
Yep, we're still in discussion. He's going to answer this.
So based on this slide, again, quick math at the bottom. This is saying, this is lowering where you're seeing on the bottom, the estimated unaudited unassigned fund balance as of June 30, 2026, 17,906. I lowered that by $1 million, although it wouldn't be $1 million.
Why did you lower that by $1 million?
Yeah.
Should be lowered by
Well-
around 380.
Well, anyway, I lowered that by $1 million, and I increased the operating revenues by $1 million, and that was at 17.4. So obviously, if I did, it would be greater than 17. I did the math wrong.
Can you
but it's-
quantify it?
Yeah.
All this makes me so uncomfortable because
just answered is not my question. So
I understand that, but it's hard to do this in the air with not a lot of tangibles, with not a lot of preparation. I'm not saying we're not going to get where you want to go, Rory. I am not ever saying that. I'm saying my original motion was to have time, to give us a little bit more time. I think you're doing all the right great work. I just want to have time. And this feels like we're throwing spaghetti.
I just don't want to describe this as throwing spaghetti.
Well, that's
at
what it
all.
is.
No,
Well, that's what it is.
I think that's your opinion, Councilwoman Bergner. And as Councilman Wedgemont, I want to say that this is not throwing spaghetti.
We don't know, we do not know these funds concretely.
I don't know when the last time you threw spaghetti, but it's a lot messier than this.
Brian, go ahead.
Okay. So, again, updating the numbers, but based on the 17.9 there, reducing that by 379,000 to 17,526,204, and increasing the operating revenues to 97,049,114, that would result in the percentage being 1806.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Go ahead.
I want clarification. Where's your identified $1 million going
Increase in the property tax transfer.
to the schools.
Which means, yes, correct.
You don't want to hold it out.
We have to identify a source for that monies right now. and
Yes.
Because of lack of information on the capital side, I'm going to commit to the property tax transfer.
We can put it in a fund. We can change we can change a line item and put it in the school improvement fund. You can increase the transfer at any point.
Can we do that and then change it over if we get, I feel like there's going to be at least $1 million in contractual obligations of the 3 million that we're talking about. So I feel like it's unlikely that the floor would drop in future years. But I do like the idea of putting it in a capital fund and then having more discussion.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I'm not really sure if there's a downside to that.
On that, Matt, on that topic, in the meetings in April, can we possibly change what we're voting on right now? On where the allocation of the funds, right? Yes. The answer is yes?
Yes.
All right, so I don't see what the concern is if we can change it, which is great.
I think once you identify that you're going to transfer $1 million, you're not going to take that away. But if we identify that we have $1 million, we can then say, we would like to have this for capital because we need a roof, we need HVAC, we need these things. We could have more influence. My only point is to have more influence. If we're going to ask, we're going to increase what we provide to have more influence. That's all. I'm not saying I wouldn't even vote for it. I'm just saying I would like to have time and more understanding and control about where it lands. That's why I approved the budget as it was. I'm happy that he's finding the money. I think I've said it 7 times. I can't repeat myself again.
I'm in favor of the motion. I think this is a budget that allows us to remain flexible and when the meetings come up in April. And I think that kudos to the council president for thinking creatively about this. And I'm in favor of this motion.
I move the question.
All right, I'm going to have the clerk take the roll.
Councilmember Bergner?
It's not possible to hold that money aside. You want to tonight increase the school transfer by $1 million? Yes, I'm uncomfortable, so I'm going to vote no.
Council Vice President Marin?
Aye.
Council President McEntee?
Aye.
Councilmember Alley?
Aye.
Councilmember Wedgemont?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 4-1.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
No, we have to, do
Oh, sorry.
we want to do HSOA, or do we want to not?
We,
was part of
as
the
part of what
motion.
just passed, the amount allocated to HSOA remained level as compared to last year. Now we got to take up the allocations to each agency. So Luke, to start us off, we'll let you get settled there.
Nicole, you have exquisite timing.
You going to work, Nicole?
Character builder. It's wonderful. Good experience.
What happened? Oh. Oh. Poor thing. She's gonna get a nice comfy chair.
She's on Route 2 already.
Did she sign a 3-year contract?
All right, I'm good to go. This is the sheet you should have in front of you. If you have any questions regard to any of the agencies, I'm glad to answer it.
Hey, Luke, maybe you could run quickly If in the event we decided to level fund each agency that we funded in the prior year, could we just see what that would look like? That'll also help us identify which ones are new and whether we think it's worthy to take monies from those we have funded in prior years and give them to new applicants. We'll give you a second to generate that.
Yeah, so just so I'm clear, so level funding, I get the level funding. We have some new agencies in on the platform, so you're just asking if we were to level fund those, what's the remaining balance to those who didn't apply or didn't get anything last year?
Obviously, if we level fund, I would guess that would get us to 182,000, assuming every applicant that applied last year also applied this year.
They didn't, though. So there's several applicants who switched
Great.
off.
So that total amount would be 170, okay? That leaves us with approximately 12,000 to potentially reallocate amongst new ones. Or provide increases in allocations to the ones who have received funding previously.
I believe so, but
Okay.
I can run the numbers.
Yeah, can you run that?
While Luke's doing that, do we want to have Jim ask the superintendent to have the school committee, ask the school committee to come back in and meet with us the week of the 30th? Before the public hearings?
Sure.
April 6 and 7? I think we have to. That's the week before the April 6 and 7 public hearings.
What's the Thursday of that week?
So it's Holy Thursday is April 1, April 2. So that's the problem.
What about Wednesday?
April Fools?
That seems appropriate.
Just saying. It's kind of funny. The budget's due on Valentine's Day. We might as well do this on April Fools. Fine. Can you do Wednesday? What?
Thinking it through.
Is it March Madness? Sorry, I know you're basketball, bud.
No, it won't be a March Madness night. I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
And just to clarify, the school committee is always in attendance at the budget public hearings. I believe that's right. Just trying to recall there. At the public hearings, I think the 6th and 7th.
They are, yes.
Does the school committee meet on the Tuesday before the 31st? Does anyone know? Because, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, final budget adoption is scheduled the last Monday of April, I think April 27. Public hearings are April 6, April 7. It's a possibility we could meet after the public hearings, or do you think it's better to meet before?
I think they should rework their stuff.
All right, April 1, 7 or 9?
We can try.
All we can do is request them, see if they can
Okay.
meet. If that doesn't work for them, then
They're not meeting before
we're not going to meet
April 1st.
ourselves.
We're not meeting the 31st or the 1st, or the 30th.
And let's request we have Nicole fly in for that night.
They can do it next week.
I suggested that Brian find money to clone himself in the budget, so working on that, Brian, please.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you ready, Luke?
Yeah, so $6,500 would be what you'd be left with if you level fund everybody from last year. Yeah. I mean, keeping in mind, we only have a few new applicants, Meals on Wheels, the World War II Foundation. Some of these applied last year and didn't get any funds. So a lot of the ones that reoccurred typically do get funds. So that typically rounds out the request. I will say traditionally, you've either level funded or kind of kept with the organizations that have received funding in the past. That's why this is kind of reflective of that.
If we level funded, Luke, would that mean that we were not giving as much to the parades, right? That we were requesting this year, right?
If you level fund, no. All we did there is we knocked out one of the parades and increased for that 7,000 to go to 2 parades. But that 7,000 has remained consistent over the past 5 years.
Understood. Thank you.
So I just want to say, I went to the World War II Museum. It is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And my only thinking about all of these grants is some grants have lots of appeal and could get lots of grant money, and that might be an organization. It's extremely worthy of our grant money. However, it has the ability to probably appeal to other sources. So as opposed to Meals on Wheels, I feel like that's very important to the underserved that we have in our community. And things like food and basic needs are more of a priority to me than, and it's no prioritization other than basic needs over other organizations, I guess. And so while some of their work is extremely worthy, I think that's one that he might be able to get other outside grants. He's a first-time applicant. He's amazing. Go see the museum, but maybe not there. And I think others probably need some adjustments as well. But
So one of the things that I did actually discuss with Erica Luke today about the South County History Museum. She had requested $7,500 this year from us to preserve the Sheldon collection, as well as I think her name was Ann Kenyon. She was a fighter pilot in World War II. I did speak with Rep. Fogarty, and she indicated that she might be able to help with a $2,500 grant on that, and that Rep. Tansey might also be able to help with $2,500, which would then make us responsible for $2,500, and then that would take care of that $7,500 that was requested and free up about $5,000 for us to use on more basic needs. However, I did speak with Erica today, and she indicated that their request to us for $7,500 would not take care of the whole project, that they need to raise about $15,000 more. So we kind of have to balance all of those things. She did actually, talk about some of the difficulty in fundraising that they have. So that sort of offsets it. But I think I feel strongly that we need to help the people that are really with basic needs.
Yeah.
Seems to be the thing that we need most of all right now.
so maybe putting some money towards St. Peter's Community Market and Meals on Wheels makes sense. I don't know what the amounts are. I feel like,
Assuming all remains constant, and we allocate the 2,500 to St. Peter's and the 1,000 Meals on Wheels, that leaves 3,000?
I'm sorry, the Meals on Wheels for 1,000, right?
St.
St.
Peter's.
Peter's, 2,500.
Yep.
So that's
that would
total
leave you
3,500.
3,000, yep.
So that leaves 3,000?
Correct.
right?
Okay.
And there are other, what are the basic needs?
What about animal rescue food pantry? How do we feel about that? I kind of think that animals are really important to people, and I do hear that a lot of animals are being surrendered. So that really, you know, I would like to help, but I don't know if that's really consistent with what we should be doing.
You got thoughts down there?
What do we have left? 3,500 or 3,000?
If you stuck with Meals on Wheels and St. Peter's, it'd be 3,000 left.
3 or 2?
3.
3. So,
What about the wildlife clinic? We didn't fund it last year.
Is that the expensive owl?
Yeah.
Correct.
I
Appreciate the work they're doing, but
So it was very interesting to hear the work that they do. I also think that this is community member money, and people can always make a donation of their own checkbook. But like, I feel so much more comfortable saying we address basic needs first, and some of the funding we have is for economic development, but a lot of it's so that people can eat food, and. I
How
don't know.
about a $500 increase in Wakefield Concert Band?
I like that.
Small, modest.
And
gives
they
them
do a
more,
lot for
essentially
us.
double as last year.
I also think that we should increase our funding if we can for the Wakefield Village Association. I think that they're taking on a big load, and if we can put a little bit more towards the request, it's a big part of the summer, and I think that they deserve it.
So what do we got left?
I
2,000?
Yeah, I just was a little perplexed at the reports that the Village Association no longer charges businesses for membership. That's what the Wakefield Village Association had reported to us, that they had changed their model and were no longer, getting money from businesses, which it's a big ask to go from 5,000 to like 15 or 20, whatever.
So I think one of the good parts about taking away the member subscription model for the Wakefield Village Association is that it lowers the entry level for like small businesses to join it, and maybe they wouldn't join it if there was a membership, but now they feel included too. And I think that they've talked about the transition that they're making to a 501c3, and I think that they're going to be trying to raise money in the future so that they can lower their costs, but I think it's a good thing that they took the costs away from the small business owners down there.
I think we should leave it at 5. I feel like the uncertainty of expenses. I mean, if you think about gas is up 75 cents, that does impact someone who lives at the poverty level or below, and you can't. People don't have the ability to make more money. Like they're taking on a second job. Some people have very fixed incomes. If you're 80 years old, there's no way for you to start working at Marshall's. So I think I really want to focus on meeting people's food needs. So maybe that's, and I also feel like the other organizations, they didn't talk about it as much, but Neighbors Helping Neighbors and Southern Rhode Island Volunteers really do a lot for the seniors in town. So that's where I feel like we need to, we're on the last 3,000, so we just need to start thinking
Is that-
about.
I just want to be clear on the Wakefield Concert Band. You're in favor of doing the full 1,100 ask?
Correct.
Okay.
The full
So
what?
that is in here.
Increase of 500, so I think that'd be 1050.
Okay, they asked for 1,100, you want 1,050?
Did they, I thought they asked for
550.
3,500,
I'm sorry, 3,500.
but we'd
So
be
you're just saying
funding,
1,050?
we'd be funding 550 plus 500, so 1050.
Okay.
So I hear-
That currently leaves you 2,500. After you get done with Meals on Wheels and the addition to St. Peter's.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that I think that I'd like us to increase the Wakefield Village Association by $1,000. I think the overflow benefits of investing in giving a little bit more money for South Kingstown residents is going to be huge. They set up events that support small businesses, bring people into our downtown, and create truly magical nights in Wakefield. And I think that just giving a little bit more money for them it would do us a tangible benefit.
I'm good with that.
Additionally, I would give another 1,000 to the Domestic Violence Resource Center of South Kingstown, or
They
South
didn't-
County.
I don't want to overfund them. I want to meet their request. I think there are other,
Well, their request was 15,000.
oh, sorry.
It's okay,
I'm looking at a bunch of tens. That's
It's-
all I see.
no problem. So
I don't see the 15.
they got 10,000 last year. I think it was, did I miswrite it?
Yeah, they got 10.
Oh, my apologies.
Oh,
No, you got it right.
sorry. I'm looking at
They
the
requested
total.
15, last year they got 10.
So I would boost it to 11, and that's it.
All right, if we did that, that'd leave us $500?
I'd like to see the child care center get,
I do too. That was
some-
my other choice.
How about additional 500 to the child care center?
Kane Child too. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Does that bring us,
Kind of helps the seniors. It does us a smattering of both. All.
That gets you your total, if you level fund everyone and you make the adjustments. You just noted you're at 182,050.
That's
Okay.
refunded.
all right?
Make a motion to pass this
So-
HSOA budget.
So let's just read it off. 11,000 domestic violence center, 9,500, no, 90. Do you want to have Luke read it? Yeah.
Okay, so you want me to go through the list or just the ones you amended?
Amended.
Okay, so domestic violence resource, you went to 11,000. You took St. Peter's to 2,500. You adjusted the Meals on Wheels by 1,000, or gave them 1,000.
Mhm.
You have the Wakefield Village Association up 1,000. And then you had the, sorry, I lost. What was your other one?
Wakefield Village, 1050, up.
Correct. That's amended.
That's the concert band.
The
Yeah, that's
Wakefield-
it.
That's the band,
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry. I said
That's
that.
correct. So you're up at 1050 from the request of 3,500, but you're up 500 from the previous year.
Yep.
Correct.
Make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Aye.
All right, clerk, I'm going to ask you to take the roll.
Why are we taking the roll?
Go ahead.
Councilmember Bergner,
Aye.
Council Vice President Marin,
Aye.
Council President McEntee,
Aye.
Councilmember Alley,
Aye.
Councilmember Wedgemont.
Aye.
Right, the motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any discussion?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, this meeting is over.
You're a trooper, Libby.